7 minutes after 6, Monday, the 20th of October 2025, has dawned. The world you are waking up to this morning is significantly different from what it was when you went to bed last night. And that's because key news and current affairs developments have continued to shape, carve, and contour your world with every passing minute. And that's why we are here bright and early to fully brief you on those developments that will move the needle in your world today. Welcome to it, the Monday edition of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Among some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours, by 2039, you will have more electricity than you know what to do with. That's if the bold undertakings of the newly approved Integrated Resource Plan, the IRP 2025, are followed through by the requisite investment. It's billed as the biggest investment ever undertaken by the South African government, the biggest infrastructure investment ever undertaken, a 2.2 trillion rand investment program aimed at addressing current energy shortfalls, transitioning to a more sustainable energy future, and driving economic growth through energy security and industrialization. That's how the Electricity Minister, Thulasizwe Simelane, has described the newly approved IRP 2025. It is a comprehensive and long-term strategy to shape the country's electricity generation mix. If successfully seen through, it will inject something in the region of 105,000 megawatts. 105,000 megawatts of new capacity onto the grid by 2039, with solar, wind, and nuclear enjoying pride of place while still incorporating coal and gas to maintain grid stability. Basically, according to the Minister, Ramokgopa, take the current Eskom capacity we have, multiply that by 2.5 times, and that's the desired end state of the new IRP 2025. So at the top of 7, what we will do is we'll speak to energy expert Chris Yelland, who has been tracking and following this IRP 2025, its development and how it's been shaping up, and was also present at the minister's media briefing. We'll be unpacking all of the details, what the implications are, including that big conversation about affordability of electricity, because it's one thing to have all this electricity, more electricity than what we know to do with, more electricity than we know what to do with, but if we can't afford it, what's the use? So Chris Yelland at the top of 7 at about 10 past 7. A fascinating opinion piece appearing in the Sowetan a few days ago under the hand of Silo Hatang, Executive Director of Rihata Moho, reflecting on the recent torching of buildings during student protests at the historic Fort Hare University in the Eastern Cape. To try and summarize it, of course, might do injustice to it, but I want to read a portion of it because I thought the symbolism was powerful and I thought it would trigger and ignite, excuse the pun, it would ignite a thought process in your mind this morning. So here goes. He says, South Africa has a long and complicated relationship with fire. During the struggle, fire became both a symbol and a weapon. Petrol bombs were hurled at state vehicles and municipal offices by a generation that felt unseen and unheard. Fire was the cry of the oppressed, a way to declare, if you do not hear us, you will see us. It was a weapon of the powerless, an emotional vocabulary used against a system that spoke the language of force. Though today's fires at Fort Hare were not acts of armed resistance, they echo that history. Fire still speaks when people feel that they are not being listened to. Powerful way of putting it, but let's unpack it with Silo Hatang at about 7:45 this morning. He will be my guest, unpacking his whole comprehensive line of thought, because that's just a portion of that piece that he wrote. So he'll speak to us at about 7:45. What's in the water? Well, if you live in Gauteng, a whole lot of stuff that shouldn't be there. While Gauteng residents grapple with dry taps and decaying water infrastructure, experts are warning that a more insidious crisis is brewing beneath the surface: the increasing pollution of the province's rivers and dams. Water experts and environmental authorities sounding a stark warning: untreated sewage industrial toxins, agricultural runoff, and mismanaged waste are degrading the province's most critical water resources, threatening not only water supply but also public health, food security, and economic sustainability. So at about 10 to 7 this morning, I'll be in conversation with Dr. Anya du Plessis, Associate Professor at UNISA and also a water management expert. All your regulars locked and loaded once again this morning, and Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne on your traffic, Zaikan watching all things sport, and Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief, and that's coming up in the next few minutes. Ndauleng Lechela with insights into the economy, business and market updates throughout the 3 hours of the show. And of course, as always, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update coming up at about 20 to 7. Do call us. Let's engage. Let's have a conversation. Let's lead the conversations that move us. The number to dial 086 000 2032, or send me WhatsApp voice notes or even messages to the number 0614 104 107. We've started it. We've revved it a few times. It's idled enough. Let's put it into gear and get it started on this Monday morning.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 as Judge Fritz Squirn shows the contestants how to make boerewors from scratch. Then it's their turn to create their own version and present a winning feast. Who'll serve up a meaty masterpiece and who'll get caught up in the grind? That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, here to kick us off, Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. Melissa, good morning and happy Monday. Let's start with news out of the Department of Social Development. Confirmation that they've parted ways with their head of communications, Lumka Oliphant, but she's not going down without a fight.
She's not going down without a fight, indeed. Good morning, Thulasizwe. The Department of Social Development has dismissed its head of communications, Lumka Oliphant, amid ongoing internal conflicts, corruption claims, and leadership instability. Oliphant, closely linked to former Minister Bathabile Dlamini, claimed she was targeted for exposing wrongdoing under current Minister Thulasizwe. Her dismissal comes just before the Social Development's Director General, Peter Nechipale, faces his own disciplinary hearings. The department cites breaches of policy and misconduct as reasons for firing Oliphant. Her removal adds to a string of suspensions and dismissals, raising concerns about the department's ability to function effectively and deliver essential services with the lack of workforce people.
I wonder what on earth is going on in that department. So many moving parts to that story. Victorious in the courts, but King Misuzulu Kazwelithini wants to be magnanimous and basically call a unity meeting, but the other faction of the Amazulu royal family is having none of that.
Yes, so some members of the Zulu royal family aligned with Prince Simakade have rejected a unity meeting called by King Misuzulu Kazwelithini for the 29th of October, claiming they were not formally invited. This follows a Supreme Court of Appeal ruling that upheld King Misuzulu's government recognition. Prince Simakade's camp while still consulting legal advisors, is considering challenging the ruling at the Constitutional Court. They argue the King's ascension bypassed traditional protocols and claim political interference in the succession battle. They call for a properly convened royal meeting to resolve this dispute. So it sounds like it's still going to be quite the long fight, and we will watch closely to see how far this goes.
As a runner, Melissa, I never thought I would ever say the sentence, "Thank goodness I'm unfit." Thank goodness I'm unfit because...
when the story was brought up.
Wow. This is, I don't want to say, yeah?
It was quite disappointing for many. The videos I've seen on social media.
I don't want to say it's a fate worse than death, because obviously that would be overstating it. But it's a fate worse than many fates you can imagine for a runner. Tell me about the cancellation of the Cape Town Marathon.
So the 2025 Sanlam Cape Town Marathon was cancelled on race day due to severe overnight winds that are said to have damaged infrastructure and made the route unsafe. Around 24,000 runners were informed only on Sunday morning. This was at least an hour before the race was set to start. Organizers, in consultation with disaster management and safety officials, made the difficult decision at 4:45 a.m. after assessing multiple risks. In response, Sanlam announced that all 2025 entrants would receive a free sponsored entry for either the year of 2026 or 2027's marathon. Sanlam expressed disappointment over the cancellation, stressing their commitment to supporting runners. Western Cape Sports MEC Ricardo McKenzie encouraged athletes to keep the marathon spirit alive despite the setback. Organizers confirmed that the marathon will return next year in May. So they have that to look forward to, I guess. But as I said on social media, people were disappointed, to say the least.
I'm just wondering, how bad were these winds to cancel a race with an hour or thereabouts to go? It's an Abbott World Major Marathon, so it has that global prestige. I'm just wondering, how bad were these winds? Anyway, Melissa, let's leave it there. Thank you for that. Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
On the weather front, the Weather Service has two warnings for you, impact-based warnings. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It is for severe thunderstorms resulting in localized damage to infrastructure, settlements, informal settlements, property, vehicles, livelihood and livestock, as well as localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, and that is expected over the western and central parts of the northwest, extreme northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, as well as the northwestern parts of the Free State. Then there's a yellow level 4 warning. It is for severe thunderstorms leading to flooding of roads, settlements and low-lying areas, resulting in closure of some bridges and roads, as well as loss of agricultural production, and those conditions are expected over the western parts of the northwest. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 13 to 18. Johannesburg, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 11 to 16. Vereeniging, same conditions, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 12 to 18. Mbombela will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 8 to 13. Polokwane, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 13 to 20. Same conditions in Mahikeng with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 22. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 11 to 23. Kimberley, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 10 to 25. Uppington will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 18 to 32. Cape Town, fine, 15 to 29. George will be fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 23. Gqeberha, partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine, 13 to 21. East London, cloudy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 14 to 21. Durban, cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 17 to 20. Richards Bay, Cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 16 to 22. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 11 to 17.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Across the United States, millions of people took to the streets in a wave of the so-called No Kings protests aimed at denouncing President Donald Trump's perceived authoritarianism, attacks on democratic institutions, and overreach of power. In a largely peaceful and festive display of civic resistance, demonstrators from all walks of life calling for a recommitment to democracy and accountability. Let's unpack it all as part of our Worldview update with Professor John Strimlow, who is Wits Honorary Professor of International Relations. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So 2,600 of these rallies across the United States. What, in essence, is the message that they sought to take to Washington?
Well, it was a festive, as you say, Thulasizwe. It's a festive occasion, a celebration of American democracy. Even in D.C., where our young grandson was participating in a demonstration, and his parents are very serious. He was carrying a sign, "Kings are for fairy tales," and it was an incident, a happening that was without violent incident. In any case, reported only a shell that went off demonstrating at Fort Pendleton in California. That was for Vice President Vance. So it was a celebration.
And this whole idea of no kings, it's a deliberate choice of words, is it not? Does it seek to strike and sort of invoke the history of the United States and its founding, the whole idea of no monarchy, but rather being centered on the Constitution?
That's correct, and it was a celebration of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which is guaranteeing free speech, and that was the message that was carried. Now, a more important question is whether America can forge a mass movement involving rich and poor, urban and rural citizens who would vote against Trump in the next election and his MAGA devotees. I do not see this happening right now, but perhaps there has been a sufficient crisis galvanizing this mass movement, but also what would spread the thing is a spike in health costs after November 1st, the government shutdown of people being inconvenienced across the country, the cost of the Trump tariffs. At the moment, these No King rallies were reactions to the shocks of ending precipitously USAID and universities and electoral outcomes that scholarship does not like, that was motivating these No King rallies. And there were 7 million demonstrators, but this is a country of 330 million people.
Yeah. It doesn't appear as if the President Donald Trump and his supporters are moved by any of this, does it? I mean, he responded by simply saying, "I'm not a king." But on the other side, his loyalists called these rallies "Hate America rallies."
Yes, that's right, but they're not credible, and it's important to remember that barely 35% of Americans are registered Republicans, and there is maybe dissent within those ranks, and 35% are registered Democrats. but that the swing votes are really what's contested, and that's why a mass movement is required, such as one saw in the 1930s after the Great Depression that brought forth Franklin Roosevelt. And it's early innings in this struggle, so you're right to stick on this story. But it's I'd say early innings.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Professor John Strimlow, who is Wits University Honorary Professor of International Relations.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick off with Mamelodi Sundowns finally shattering their Nigerian curse, clinching a vital 5-win away win against Remo Stars, putting themselves firmly in contention for Champions League glory. The Brazilians' clinical finishing and defensive grit saw them overcome years of heartbreak against Nigerian sides. Here's their coach, Miguel Cardoso.
Not easy to play against a team that has a lot of man-to-man marking in all over the pitch. We had to find the pass breakthrough a lot of times, so find the third man so that we could find a free player. A lot of mobility. I think that the players understood very well what we put it in work since the day we gathered to prepare this match. And then it was a matter of keeping attitude.
Meanwhile, it was heartbreak for Orlando Pirates. Their 10-match winning streak came to a halt after a 3-0 defeat to Saint Eloi Limpopo in the DRC. Pirates now face an uphill battle in the return leg if they hope to keep their continental dreams alive. Meanwhile, in Yaoundé, MC Alger showed their resilience to draw 1-1 with Colombo FC. Closer to home, Maruma Gallants clinched a 2-1 win over Chippa United at the Cesar Ramabudu Stadium yesterday. Elsewhere, Liverpool slumped to a fourth consecutive defeat for the first time in 11 years as Man United won 2-1 to end their near decade-long wait for victory at Anfield. Defeat leaves Liverpool 4 points adrift of Arsenal at the top of the table. On to cricket, Australia completed a comfortable 7-wicket win in a rain-shortened first ODI against India in Perth, with Virat Kohli dismissed for a duck on his international return. And finally, athletics, the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon ending in disappointment after severe winds forced organisers to cancel the race. More than 24,000 runners, many of them international participants, were left stranded. Some still took to the streets in unofficial runs, but safety concerns were put first. Here's what some of the runners had to say.
I run in New York Marathon with 6-inch snow. I run in the Detroit, even the freezing weather. It's not mean you have small wind and you stop. No, this is not excuse. I'm sorry.
I'm very devastated because the preparations, the cost, the traveling and everything has to come here, and then we get the news in the last hour. Cape Town is always windy. We ran to Ocean at a very windy Chapman's Peak. It was never cancelled.
That's the runners blown off course there.
No, we'll talk about it later.
I'll jog back.
I don't know if
Wind or not. With more sport, top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, 3 witnesses are expected to testify before the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this week. Proceedings will partially be heard in camera from today to Wednesday. Businessman Vusimuzi Matlala is expected to appear in the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the Alexandra Magistrate Court's decision to deny him bail. And officials from the Zimbabwe and Malawi High Commissions and the Limpopo Provincial Government are today expected to meet with the families of the 43 people killed in a bus crash outside Louis Trichardt more than a week ago. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. I was in the malls yesterday and thought it's really busy. It was really busy. One particular mall was, or centre, shopping centre, was way busier than what I have experienced for quite some time. And I thought, I wonder how that is going to transpire into traffic volumes this morning. And I can tell you, just looking across the country, it's really busy. It's a really busy Monday. It might surprise you. The N3, for example, through the construction at Joburg, already queuing heavily. Marlborough Drive to Buccleuch going north, just off Buccleuch down to London Road. That's pretty fat, that queue going southbound into London Road. So make sure you got got plenty of time to get through, or you're just taking alternative routes. But other routes like the N3 from Germiston through to Edenvale's busy. The N17 coming out of Bracktown through the roadworks, that's busier than normal. A lot of traffic on the N1 between John Foster and Allendale this morning, so that's slow. It may also have something to do with the wet weather conditions across the Gauteng province as well. Again, just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through safely. Durban, a crash around Tweeny Hill, so the N2 in from Toti slow. Got the first of today's breakdowns on the N2 South going into Spaghetti Junction, so that's slow as you queue back towards Umgena Road. And the first of the breakdowns at Cliffdale on your way to Pietermaritzburg, so some very slow traffic coming up Key Ridge, Cliffdale on your way slowly up towards Hammersdale. Cape Town, the big winds that disrupted yesterday's marathon, causing a bit of chaos this morning with the closure of Baden-Powell Drive. So much sand up at Sandy Corner, Monwa BC, that section is closed. Sand again at Coastal Park with a narrowing of the lanes. And it looks like we might have some traffic light trouble coming out of Mitchell's Plain. There's some heavy pressure, both the M7 and the R300 out towards that Samora Michelle side. That junction very heavily backed up. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
All right, for the first update of the morning and the first one of the week, actually, let's turn to Ndaoleng Lechela. Ndaoleng, let's start in China. Good morning and happy Monday to you. Tell me about growth in China slowing in Q3.
Morning, Thulas, and growth not moving in the right direction over in Asia. The world's second largest economy expanded 4.8% in the third quarter. Yes, meeting expectations, but revealing deeper strains beneath the surface, with growth slowing. In the second quarter, the economy expanded by 5.2%, and in the first quarter, growth came in at 5.4%. Now, zooming in on the Q3 print, fixed asset investment slipped 0.5% in the first 9 months, the first contraction since 2020 as infrastructure and manufacturing spending weakened. Property investment fell close to 14%, deepening from a 12.9% drop in August, and this spooked investors, with Pinpoint Asset Management Zwe Zhang warning of pressure on fourth quarter growth. Now, industrial output was a bright spot, coming in 6.5% higher in September and beating forecasts, while retail sales slowed to 3% rather from 3.4% in August, signaling softer consumer demand. Deflation persisted as headline inflation fell 0.3%. Now, despite this, the central bank has held back on stimulus, leaving its key lending rates unchanged for a sixth straight month, balancing fragile growth against financial stability risks.
What's that they say about beauty being in the eye of the beholder? I see that, do you call them keyring? Keyring are not beholding their beauty business right now.
It seems that when, according to sources, the French luxury house is preparing to ditch the beauty sector just 2 years after entering it, with L'Oreal in advanced talks to buy its cosmetics division in a deal estimated at around $4 billion. Now, the sale would include Kering's recently acquired fragrance label Creed and give L'Oreal rights to develop beauty products for Kering's fashion brands such as Gucci, Balenciaga, and Alexandra McQueen. Now, for CEO Luca De Meo, who took over in September, the move signals a shift in strategy. Kering's brief experiment in building a beauty arm, launched only in 2023, was meant to give the group more control over its perfume and cosmetics lines. Instead, the sale underscores the company's urgency to strengthen its balance sheet and refocus on reviving its struggling core brands. Kering's debt burden stood at 9.5 billion euros at the end of June, weighing on investor sentiment as Gucci, its flagship label, continued to underperform.
All right, recap for us how we closed on Friday in Ndaoleng and the kind of tone that is being set in those markets that have already opened.
So starting in the US, stocks closed last week in the green as trade jitters fade and as banks rebounded. The S&P 500 led the gains, up over 0.5%. Meanwhile, back at home, markets took a breather on falling metal prices. Resources declined 6%, leading to a 2% decline in the all share. The rand, in the meantime, remaining steady this morning despite the commodity run blip. It's at 17.35 to the greenback. Meanwhile, oil is still lagging, trading just above $61 per barrel. Lastly, in Asia, markets starting the week strong in the green and shrugging off concerns about China's slowing economy.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. That's the first update from Dowling. Look out for more insights from her coming up in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's start with Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you. Raz, let's start in Madagascar, in Antananarivo. We now have President Michael Randrianirina.
Jumbo Africa, Thulas, and refreshing morning. It is raining all over Thulas. I think even in Auckland Park you have some showers there. Thulas, indeed, SADC and AU, is it overtaken by events, Thulas? As you know, that SADC this week will be sending a technical committee to engage with the island of Madagascar. But on Friday, there was an inauguration of Colonel Michael Randrianirina, who was the commander of the elite army unit that took over the office from Andra Rajolina. He was confirmed by the court, Thulas, and in his speech he said he will respect and safeguard the constitution and the rule of law. Who's this man, Thulas, who's behind the power grab? He was a former governor in the southern region of Madagascar, Androya, between 2016 and 2018. 2023, he was arrested, Thulas, for planning a mutiny, and he was sent to Sifaya prison, meaning this is not for the first time Thulas has been trying to deal with these issues of power change in the island of Madagascar. But like I said, Thulas, he has been sworn in, and it seems he's moving towards developing the national interest of the Malagasy, and he's shying away from France, and it seems he had already had a meeting on Thursday with the Russian embassy in Madagascar.
Yeah. In Kenya, Sipho, the burial of Raila Odinga, my goodness, the scenes were extraordinary. Just the throngs of people, the scores and hundreds and thousands of people that poured out onto the streets, onto the stadium. Just really beautiful scenes of the final tribute to Raila Odinga.
That is quite true, Thulas. The funeral was yesterday at his rural home, Bondo. And on Saturday, Thulas, his body was for the viewing of the public in the western city of Kisumu. And as you said, on Friday, it was that guard of honor, where all former heads of states and the current president, William Ruto, had to do their last viewing. Raila Odinga, if you look, Thulas, has been rated as one of the legislators who served for 15 years in Kenya, and this came from William Ruto when he said this is one man who will deserve an honor. And everyone's generation, there comes a leader whose impact transcends their moment. So Raila Odinga has been laid to rest. It didn't take so long. The family requested that within 72 hours he should be buried. And others are saying it is unusual for a popular leader in East Africa to be buried in such a fast move. If you look to us, that within few days, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and yesterday, he was already buried in his hometown in Bondo.
And one of the late brother leader's sons released from prison. Talk to me about, I refuse to believe that that's his actual name, Hannibal Gaddafi.
Thulas, the son of Gaddafi, has been arrested without being charged for almost a decade, but it appears on Friday the Lebanese judge ordered that release and say on the condition that he will pay $11 million Thulas, for his bail. This has been a long-standing trial, Thulas, if you recall, that this son of Gaddafi was arrested in Lebanon in 2015 after he was abducted by the Lebanese militants. As I said, Thulas, there are no clarity about his arrest, what his arrest is linked to, but this has been a long-standing, if you look at Lebanon as well as Libya. But Hannibal Gaddafi, for him to be released, like I said, he needs $11 million to be released and go to Tripoli.
Yeah, I suspect he has a very nice Arabic name, Wenasipo. You'll probably tell me about it tomorrow. In your historical archives, tell me about what happened on the 20th of October, 1995.
Thulasizwe, 30 years when this book was released, but this book also caused tension because the late President Nelson Mandela differed with the content of the book that says that we have what we called, this book was titled Thulas Mini Nuke Conspiracy, Mandela's Nuclear Nightmare. It says that South Africa claimed that it did destroy all its nuclear weapons in 1993, as it was claimed by the late President F.W. de Klerk. And that was not true, Thulas. This book says that actually there were more. There were 24 nuclear devices that were manufactured, and some of them fell into the hands of the right wing, and others were moved to Israel just before 1994 general elections. Our listeners can check the review, Thulas. Others, when they talk about this book, they are giving it a top review. Others are saying that there's something behind it if one looks at the challenges of the nuclear weapons in the continent, in the world, about whether this book, is it true that we are not out of the nuclear woods, but a long shot. Asante sana, Thulas, as we're still leading the conversation. SFM observing the cyber security man.
All right, Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mandula with your Africa update.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Introducing South Africa's most affordable way to get hearing aids. At Specsavers Audiology, you can now get a pair of hearing aids from as little as 599 Rand per month. Hearing clearly shouldn't be a luxury. Enjoy life's moments from 599 Rand per month. Test your hearing today and join the conversation with Specsavers Audiology. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
16 minutes to 7. This is a story we wanted to bring you on Friday, but we battled a little bit. So let's connect with our guest now. South Africans wagered a staggering 1.5 trillion rand over the past financial year. But before you think the country has gone suddenly rich, everyone has gone suddenly rich, that figure reflects turnover, not profit. The real revenue that gambling operators actually kept, the so-called house edge, amounted to about 75 billion rand, with the rest paid out in winnings. And it's online betting that's driving this boom, accounting for 60% of the industry's takings as more South Africans gamble on their phones. But the National Gambling Board warns that the trend has a dark side, from social grant recipients betting their stipends to offshore platforms siphoning money from the country. Let's speak to Sibongile Simelane Quntana, who is Executive Director of the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. From those figures, do we have cause to be concerned?
We should really be concerned because I think one of the reasons that we need to understand is that those figures that we've been given, it actually is giving us an indication that online betting is on a rise, and not just a rise that we need to tolerate and be patient of. It's a significant rise from 6 billion in the previous financial year to 75 billion in the current financial year, where it has been reported. So that it means people are more and more spending time on gambling, whether online or on land-based, because we still have the figures for the land-based, although the land-based retracted a little bit, but we see online betting increasing a lot.
And what are the trends that you are observing in the space and in the work that you do, particularly in vulnerable groups, and certain segments of our population, young people, social grant recipients, as far as gambling habits go?
Look, we are seeing a rise. For instance, in our previous financial year with our referrals, the group between 18 and 35, there was only 787 people that came and seek treatment. In this current financial year, where we produced the report for 2024-2025, we saw 2,034. So you can see that that's a significant increase as compared to the previous financial year. And the most concerning figures are the ones that you've rightfully mentioned, that they are social grant recipients. So which means that they actually are spending the monies that are meant to keep them afloat or buy food. But what we've also observed, yes, we may say that these are social grant recipients. Some of them have indicated in various instances when they seek help that they actually have substitute income, and that substitute income is something that they get from peace jobs. So it's not entirely that they spend that 370.
Sure.
They have income over and above that 370.
So how do we balance between the freedom to gamble, balance that with consumer protection as well as social responsibility? What are we missing? What does the gap look like?
We need to strengthen our laws, Thulasizwe. Our laws currently are actually exposing the vulnerable, are exposing minor children, to advertisement of gambling. I think as a country, we need, blame games aside, because mainstream media, they actually accept, advertising revenue from the gambling operators. And then we cannot blame gambling operators and cry that whenever you turn the radio, it's advertising. What we need to say as a country, when is the acceptable times for gambling to be aired on television? We need to know that during school hours between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., parents are transporting kids to school. And therefore, from a social responsibility point of view, mainstream media and radio should actually say that we will accept your request for us to air your ad, but during these times are times that we have young audiences that are listening, and therefore we'll rather play your ads during this time where most likely you've got adult audience. So as a country, it's a collective responsibility. It's not only government who needs to police us and say that do not air advertisements between these hours. We need to have a collective responsibility, social collective responsibility, I call it.
And is there something to be said for the intersection between financial institutions, their responsibility and facilitation of the gambling mobile networks and the likes? Yeah,
they have definitely they have a responsibility. For instance, our financial sectors, they produce reports that say that they see increases of people spending money more on gambling, but they are not reflecting to the fact that the availability of vouchers are actually on the cell phones of people. Now, people don't have an option to opt out. Gambling is easily accessible because they are aiding that as financial institutions that, we are also going to review, because it's a revenue generation. If the operators put, vouchers on the cell phone through banking apps, they generate revenue. But what they need to do is to say that consumers need to have a right to opt out. I don't want to see gambling vouchers on my phone.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Sibongile Simelane Quntana, who is Executive Director of the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a pretty heavy Monday, big volume Monday by the looks of things around all regions, really. Just a lot heavier than you might be expecting already. Give you an example of that. The N3 out of Germiston queuing Elands all the way up to Mollefontein Road. Then it gets super heavy between Alexandra and Buccleuch, both ways. That section of the N3 as the roadworks bite in again this morning. N1 North getting through Deepcliff Interchange. That Uncle Charlie's quite slow coming up from the Eldorado Parkside. And we've got a heavy N1 between Brockfontein and New Road. There's also a crash going northbound, so there might be a bit of onlooking coming south in the big volume at what's going on the northbound side. Two breakdowns around Durban in the rain this morning, N2 southbound at Spaghetti Junction, delays from Umgeda Road, breakdown between Cliffdale and Hammersdale, heavy from the Key Ridge area, and there's also been a crash on the N4 inbound just around the M7, so coming up the Southern Freeway on your way into town, that is quite slow going through that Clarewood Rossborough area. Cape Town collision, N1 inbound just before Brackenfell Boulevard. That's a queue right back to Kraaifontein. No traffic lights. M7, R300. Both of those routes out of Mitchell's Plain towards Samora Michelle are badly backed up. And Baden-Powell Drive closed at Monwabisi due to thick sand. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The River Islanders are in it to win it, but their visitors, the Iron Union, targets the bag with 3 points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch SV Werder Bremen up against FC Union Berlin on Friday, 24 October at 8:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Imagine if you could save time like you save money. A second here, a minute there. Type a little faster, walk a little faster. Or you could stop scrolling on the internet. Just think of all the hours you'll save. Now what if you could take all that time and invest it? Watch it grow. Until eventually, one day, you'd have so much time that you wouldn't know what to do with it all. But unfortunately, time doesn't work like that. It can't be stored or banked. And unlike money, you can't make it back. That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do whatever you want to do, even if it is scrolling on the internet. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
All right, it's coming up to 6 minutes to 7. Credit to the initial reporting of the Sunday Times and Our City News on this story. While Gauteng residents grapple with dry taps and decaying water infrastructure, experts are warning that a more insidious crisis is brewing beneath the surface: the increasing pollution of the province's rivers and dams. Water experts and environmental authorities are sounding a stark warning. Untreated sewage, industrial toxins, agricultural runoff, and mismanaged waste are degrading the province's most critical water sources, threatening not only water supply but also public health, food security, and economic sustainability. Let's speak to Dr. Anya Du Plessis, who is Associate Professor at UNISA but also a water management expert. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. I read somewhere that you are actually putting it as, water pollution now poses a bigger threat than water shortages in Gauteng. How so?
Well, water pollution contributes at the end of the day to our water shortages. Us here in Johannesburg are being hit with literal water shortages where taps are running dry. But in some instances, we need to remember that even if water flows through your tap, or if there is water, let's say, in a dam or in a stream, people still will not be able to use that water due to the high pollution content.
The parlous state of our wastewater treatment plants across the country is well documented. Gauteng has also long grappled with this whole issue of acid mine drainage. But that's just a piece of the puzzle. There's a lot more to be said for what's polluting Gauteng waters, isn't there?
Exactly, yeah. So we have to look at our industries as well. You look at abattoirs, where most of these industries, unfortunately, dump untreated effluent into surrounding water bodies instead of first treating it to such a standard before dumping it in. We're also looking at litter, as you said, poor waste management. So there are many, many examples, unfortunately. And the Hartbeespoort Dam is a very good example of where all of these things lead to. So all of your point and non-point pollutants in the upper regions of the catchment all come together within the Hartbeespoort Dam, now causing the dam to be eutrophic, very high nutrient content, high phosphates due to our failing sewage.
Say a bit more about those consequences from a scientific perspective before we talk from a social and economic perspective. You talk about what you call eutrophication. What's that? Salinity and microbial contamination. What are those?
So microbial contamination, let's start with that. I think most people have seen sewage overflows all over the show. A very good example here in Johannesburg, unfortunately, is the Esperanza Primary School, where they are currently struggling with sewage overflowing within the middle of the school. Obviously, as you say, having health impacts. But the primary impact that we're currently seeing is the destruction of aquatic ecosystems. Our systems are simply not able to handle the high load of pollutants anymore. We call it the buffering capacity, which means that the water body is able to recover to a certain extent through dilution, etc. But because of the constant inflow of raw sewage, which comes together with your high nutrients, especially now in the Hartbeespoort Dam, where you are seeing high concentration of nitrates, phosphates, ammonia, all contributing to the high nutrient content, basically decreasing the dissolved oxygen within the water column, and that's when you see large-scale fish deaths due to no oxygen within the water column. We call it dissolved oxygen.
So what are the examples of where this pollution of our rivers and dams is beginning to hit industry the most? I remember a story a couple of months ago done by Sikonati Manjanja that talked about how the tourism sector was being hit for obvious reasons. But I read somewhere that you were talking about sectors including the agriculture sector, for example.
Yeah, the agricultural sector is very vulnerable. We need to remember and be cognizant of the fact that they are dependent on the water quality to be of such a suitable standard so they can actually irrigate their crops. And from my experience and research that I've done over the couple of years, through increasing communities starting to contact me to say, what do they have to do? And one of those communities has been agricultural communities, farmers, especially located on the reaches of the Crocodile River, where the pollution is at such an extent now where it has polluted their soil. It's changed the characteristics of the soil chemically, and also due to the poorer irrigation quality, water quality of that, they've now had to change their crops as well. I've also spoken to farmers who have lost contracts to suppliers due to the suppliers being worried about the water quality that they are using to irrigate their crops. So we need to remember that this is a wide-scale issue. Yes, it's got major human health implications, but the wider impact is on our agricultural resources, especially close to rivers like the Vaal, the Crocodile, etc., where those types of rivers have been heavily impacted by our urban areas and even informal settlements next door where they don't have the services for their waste management and sanitation and sewers, etc.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Dr. Anya du Plessis, Associate Professor at UNISA, as well as a water management expert. Brings us to 7 a.m. and Musa is on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Madlanga Commission of Inquiry witnesses to testify remotely, and Kat Matlala heads back to court to appeal bail application. Good morning. 3 witnesses are expected to testify before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this week. Proceedings will partially be heard in camera from today to Wednesday. The witnesses' testimonies are expected to be in relation to the experiences as detectives investigating criminal cartels. Sibahle Mota reports.
Proceedings are expected to continue this week, in line with the ruling handed down by Chairperson Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga last week. Justice Madlanga ruled that witnesses this week will testify via audio in a remote location. This is also in line with an agreement reached between media houses Daily Maverick and Media 24 and the Commission's evidence leaders. Last week, witness X, who was testifying remotely through an intermediary, encountered technical challenges which are believed to have threatened their life.
Businessman Vusimuzikat Matlala is expected to appear in the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the Alexandra Magistrates Court decision to deny him bail. Last month, Matlala's bail application was unsuccessful after the magistrate ruled he was a flight risk and a danger to society. Matlala is accused of orchestrating an attempt to kill his former partner, Tebogo Tobejane, in October 2023. Sasha Naidu reports.
Matlala believes that the Alexandra Magistrates Court erred in its decision to deny him bail. In September, the director of 4 companies told the court that staying in prison will affect his businesses, which pay monthly salaries of just under 2 million rand. He denied being the mastermind behind the attempted murder of Tebogo Tobejane, maintaining that the state's case against him is weak. However, Magistrate Saita Prinsloo maintained that Matlala failed to prove exceptional circumstances to justify his release on bail.
Officials from the Zimbabwe and Malawi High Commissions and the Limpopo provincial government are today expected to meet with the families of the 43 people killed in a bus crash outside Louis Trichardt more than a week ago. The bus was carrying over 90 people. It was travelling from Gqeberha, the N1 heading to Malawi through Zimbabwe. The Limpopo Premier spokesperson, Tilibali Mwaba, says the aim of the meeting is to support the bereaved families.
The purpose of this meeting is to support the families during the physical identification of their loved ones. So these meetings marks the next phase in the identification process following the completion of the post-mortem examination conducted by the Forensic Pathology Services. The South African Police Service Victim Identification Center has also commenced scientific identification procedures, including the DNA analysis and the fingerprints matching, in partnership with authorities from Zimbabwe as well as Malawi. So the Limpopo provincial government continues to offer psychological support services to affected families, including trauma counseling.
The Free State Education Department has invited church representatives to today's matric prayer session in Kwakwa. About 1,000 matric learners will hold the prayer session ahead of the start of the 2025 National Senior Certificate Final Examinations. The exams will start tomorrow with computer applications and language papers. The department says at least 40,000 matric learners will write the exams in the province. The Free State maintained its top matric pass rate in the country last year. The department spokesperson Howard Ndaba.
We're also inviting various churches to be part of this prayer where we are praying for our learners to perform well. We are also taking this opportunity to motivate our learners and wish them the best of luck. We are targeting 45% bachelor passes and 95% pass rate.
Further field, and finally, Bolivia has elected centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz Pereira as its next president. He defeated right-wing candidate Jorge Quiroga in yesterday's runoff vote. The election could signal an overhaul of economic policies. The BBC's Ione Wells has more.
Bolivia is facing severe fuel shortages, long queues at petrol stations, a lack of US dollars and soaring inflation. After years of economic decline and infighting within the ruling Socialist Party, many voters wanted change. Rodrigo Paz Pereira, a centrist senator, ran on the slogan "Capitalism for All." He pledged free market reforms, including lowering some taxes and import tariffs, while keeping social programs for the poorest.
Recapping the top story, 3 witnesses are expected to testify before the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this week. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes waiting for the microwave to beep.
Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 Suzuki Jimny, 55-year-old Stefan now pays only 611 Rand a month. And for her 2024 Kia Sonet, 31-year-old Palisa pays just 926 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Cricket action underway. The Proteas looking to spin the script back in their favour and hopefully looking for more runs and more wickets. And this is the second test against Pakistan taking place in Rawalpindi. Pakistan won the toss. They chose to bat first. They're currently 5 for the loss of no wickets. And we also bring you the drama surrounding the Cape Town Marathon and its, cancellation. The details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Bit of early morning rain across the Gauteng province, just causing some extra delays. It's a busy, high-volume Monday, plus the rain, keeping things extra slow. The N3 from Elands all the way up towards Modderfontein Road is quite heavy, and then you get into the real thick stuff between Buccleuch and London Road through the roadworks. N12, Benoni through Boksburg, that looks quite slow this morning. The N17 between Boksburg and Brakpan, both ways through the roadworks, under quite a bit of pressure. The N1 going north, a crash by New Road, so queues down to Allendale. And if you're southbound this morning, again, just high volumes from Brockfontein all the way down to Allendale, with possibly a bit of onlooking on the crash going northbound. Durban also very busy this morning, also wet as well, so do take it easy. The M4 inbound, very slow coming in from Jacobs, Clarewood up towards the M7. That's Southern Freeway towards M7 Rossborough, very slow. The breakdown before Spaghetti Junction looks like it's probably out of the way. That traffic south from Umgena Road starting to move, but there's another breakdown around Cliffdale, which is the reason for the big delays heading up from Key Ridge on your way slowly to Pietermaritzburg. Cape Town crash, N1 into town at Brackenfell Boulevard. That's heavy coming through from Kraaifontein. Marine Drive is full of traffic between Sunningdale and the Racecourse Road Junction in near the Paddocks area. And Baden-Powell Drive closed at Monwa BC due to thick sand on the carriageway. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Your daily briefing session is underway. Welcome to it, the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. We are on 104 to 107 on the traditional radio airwaves. But as always, we are live on our digital platforms, safm.co.za. We are SAFM Radio on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. Also at SAFM Radio on Facebook and also on X. Coming up in this hour, we will be talking a bit about the integrated resource plan. This is the long-term planning for our energy mix, planning the sources of energy that will be ramped up over the coming years and what the end state of that is by 2039. By 2039, we are told that we will have new capacity of some 105,000 megawatts. So we are told that's double, that's 2.5 more. That's Eskom multiplied by 2.5, basically. Double Eskom capacity plus a half of that. That is what will be added to the national grid by 2039. We'll talk to Chris Yelland in the next few minutes, how it will all unfold, whether we have the wherewithal and the endurance, the discipline of implementation that will see us get to that point. Chris Yelland on standby to talk to me about that. Then immediately after we talk to Chris Yelland, we'll talk about this phenomenon of so-called pens down parties. Parties that matriculants in particular stage at the end of their exams. We are near that period of matric exam season, which obviously starts to lead up to the end of the schooling career for many children, and you see these parties being staged in parts of the country. Lots of concern being expressed about, just how much control is there around issues of safety. So we'll speak to V. Ghani, who is from the KZN Parents Association, who will be weighing in, because that is a conversation that is of concern to them. And then at about 7:45 this morning, that conversation with Sello Hatang, where he invokes the symbolism, the powerful symbolism of fire and South Africa's long and complicated relationship with fire, in making commentary about the protests we saw recently at the University of Fort Hare, where we saw a number of buildings going up in flames, with now finger pointing all round really as to who is responsible. Lots of theories about that, no one coming forward and taking responsibility. Sello Hatang has done a bit of analysis into that phenomenon of burning infrastructure and buildings during protests, located it in its historical perspective, that makes arguments about whether or not it takes us forward in any way. So he will be my guest at about 7:45 this morning. Do call me. I'm keen and willing and able to listen and engage. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032, or your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. A bit slower, 0614 104 107. Let's get into it then. The second hour of the morning brief on this Monday morning.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
14 minutes after 7. By 2039, you will have more electricity than you know what to do with. That's if the bold undertakings of the newly approved Integrated Resource Plan, IRP 2025, are followed through by the requisite investment. It's billed the biggest investment ever undertaken by the South African government, a 2.2 trillion rand investment program aimed at addressing current energy shortfalls, transitioning to a more sustainable energy future, and driving economic growth through energy security and industrialization. So those are the words used by the Minister of Electricity, Thulasizwe Simelane, describing the newly approved IRP 2025, a comprehensive long-term strategy to shape the country's electricity generation mix. Let's speak to Chris Yelland, who is Managing Director at EE Business Intelligence. Good morning to you, Chris, and thank you for your time. So 2.2 trillion rand, the end state is 2039 or thereabouts, but there are certain milestones to be achieved within the next few years. Unpack for us, what are some of the key features of IRP 2025?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning. I think we must be careful and refrain from calling this an investment yet. It is not an investment yet. What it is a plan that, if followed through, may result in an investment of up to 2.23 trillion rand. The point I'm trying to make is that it's only an investment once funding has been obtained and the procurement has been done. Then an investment takes place. Till then, it's just a plan, but an important plan at that, and a very ambitious plan. I don't think it's going to result in us having more electricity than we know what to do with. but the plan is to meet the projected demand, in the years ahead, and to have sufficient electricity to meet demand. That's what the plan is all about. Also important to note is that this is not a prescriptive plan that has to be followed by law or anything like that. It is an indicative plan for the private sector and for funders, whether they are DFIs, commercial banks, financial institutions, to get an idea of the opportunities ahead. It is really a plan that people can follow or may not follow, that they can try and get funding for, but it's not something that is prescriptive and that will have to be followed.
Yeah. Chris, as I ask you the next question, I wonder if you can change the way you are holding your handset. We're just battling a little bit with hearing you clearly. But let me ask you, the projected end state is that cleaner energy fuels and renewables will surpass the fossil fuel element in our energy mix. So it will be flipped on its head, according to the minister. How exactly, from the details that you gleaned from that plan, how will that be achieved if followed through?
Yeah, look, it all depends on how you define the word clean or cleaner energy. I think what the minister is referring to is that coal in the mix will decline. And alternatives such as wind, solar PV, battery energy storage, and nuclear will increase. And in the minister's view, nuclear is clean energy. Well, of course, that is debatable. But I think the reality is, as the minister says, that the coal in the mix is going to decline and become no longer the majority part of the mix.
And in terms of, you said it's indicative and perhaps invites other role players, including investors, the private sector, DFIs and the likes. But realistically, can we achieve 11,270 megawatts from solar, 7,340 megawatts from wind capacity, and 6,000 megawatts of gas to power by 2030? That first goal of 2030. How realistic are those plans for you?
Well, look, I think the lower risk and quicker delivery options is realistic. And in fact, I believe not only will we achieve those, but we will exceed the targets. And when I talk about quicker and lower risk options, I'm really talking about solar PV, wind, and battery energy storage. South Africa has a lot of experience in delivering these quickly and on time and on budget. And as I say, I've no doubt that will be achieved and in fact exceeded. I am much less confident about the higher risk options of greater regret that take much longer to plan and execute and deliver. And there I'm talking about in the years to 2030, I'm talking about the gas to power. I think it is very unlikely that we're going to meet our ambitions for gas to power by 2030. I think even the minister acknowledged that the risk of not achieving that target is high. And the same applies to the nuclear new build. These are very long-term and long build options. They take a long time to procure. They're highly regulated, the nuclear environment. And therefore, I think the risk of not meeting the targets for the nuclear sector are much higher than not meeting the risks for solar PV, wind, and battery energy storage, which can be delivered quickly and reliably.
And lastly, while you talk about that, the context of it all is that the target is that by 2039, there'll be 105,000 megawatts more in the grid than what we have. Hence, the minister describing it as the most ambitious infrastructure undertaking in democratic South Africa. But the part of the risks that you're talking to, and please say a bit more about that, the risks about the skills that will be needed to achieve all of that build program, but also industries that will support such a build program. Is that what you're talking about that makes you a bit skeptical about some of the targets?
Yes, certainly that's part of it. There's also the risk of not being able to finance things like a nuclear new build. Remember, the finance is going to come from outside of government. Government has indicated that it will not finance it, nor will it provide government guarantees. Therefore, these projects have to make business sense to the lenders. And the lenders, of course, as I say, commercial banks, DFIs, and financial institutions, unless it makes commercial sense, a good business case, these funders will not come to the table. But the minister did indicate, and I agree with him, he identified two major threats or, to being able to deliver this program as being, the available skills and the need to develop these skills in South Africa, as well as the state of the construction industry in South Africa, which has been somewhat decimated in recent years and will have to be rebuilt in order to execute this kind of infrastructure program.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights. Chris Yelland is Managing Director at EE Business Intelligence.
The Blues chase a crucial win in their own backyard.
Releases James, and it deflects, and it's there! Enzo Fernandez with the simplest of finishes to give Chelsea the lead.
But the Black Cats want to demonstrate why they belong in the top half.
Decent ball in, header down is in! Sunderland have it, and listen to the noise. It couldn't have gone any better.
This is the Premier League. Witness Chelsea FC versus Sunderland FC on Saturday, 25 October at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Are you a small business owner? Do you truly believe in your dream, but sometimes feel like the odds are stacked against you? Sanlam Corporate and Santam believe in you and in the power of SMMEs to grow South Africa's future. That's why they're hosting the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective event on 21 October from 9 to 4 p.m. at the Sandton Convention Center. It's an invite-only event. To request an invite, visit sanlamonline.co.za/campaigns/SMME Collective and stand a chance to join the pitch parade, where entrepreneurs like you can present your pitch in person and get real-time expert feedback. Network, learn and be inspired. From funding and risk to AI and new markets, let's unlock growth and shape your future together. Stay tuned to SAFM for more. Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
24 minutes after 7. Credit to the initial reporting of Independent Online for this story. As the 2025 matric exams approach, excitement around end-of-year celebrations is being tempered by growing concern over the safety of unsupervised pens-down parties. While these gatherings mark a major milestone for learners, past tragedies linked to substance abuse, reckless behavior and fatal accidents have led to calls for a rethink of how matriculants celebrate the end of their school journey. Government departments, schools, parents and civil society are now uniting to push for safer alternatives to prevent these celebrations from becoming deadly. Let's speak to V. Ghani, KZN Parents Association, part of that grouping, the KZN Parents Association. V, good morning and thank you. V is chairperson of that association. V, good morning and thank you for your time. What about these... What about these end-of-year parties makes them a constant area of concern? We have this conversation every year, and I wonder if it goes forward post this season, where we see matric exams followed by these end-of-year pens-down parties. What about them concerns you?
I think that the biggest concern is the fact that a number of these parties are unsupervised. And that's where the problem really stems from. You know, there are a number of parties, and let's be honest, children spend 12, 13 years of their lives in school. And, you know, when they finish school, they want to celebrate in some form or manner. You know, some schools tend to have parties within the schools, you know, where the educators are there and they tend to have a party, they play a bit of music, whatever the case may be. So it's a bit controlled. I think the concern that parents have, especially looking at a couple of incidents that we've had in the past, where these parties were unsupervised, there was alcohol abuse, there was drug abuse, there was obviously driving without having licenses. So children have been harmed or injured, and some children actually lost their lives in that context. So I think that's where the issue is that there's nothing wrong with the parties. The problem is that a number of them are unsupervised, which tends to lead to abuse in all forms.
What's the best thinking about how we avoid incidents such as the one that occurred in Dinwiddie High School in 2023, where 5 pupils died, as well as, of course, that 2022 Enyobeni Tavern disaster? How do we avoid those while still acknowledging and celebrating this major milestone that these young people will have attained?
You look, it's difficult to control, because you must also know that in some of these instances, there was issues where the children didn't tell their parents where they were going. The parents didn't know where the children were and what they were doing. So I think also parents have to just be a bit cautious of that. But again, if these parties are held in the school environment where they are celebrating with their educators and all of that, the chances are it's a bit more controlled and there's supervision in there. But I think the problem happens where children go to other parties outside of that, and where these are private parties that are being held by sometimes their own classmates. It's not supervised, and these kids don't tell their parents where they're going. So, that's the uncertainty that I think all of us speak about, is where are the kids and what are they doing, and what's the environment like in which they are celebrating. That's in essence the problem. We need to know where the kids are. We need to know who they're celebrating with.
Yeah.
We need to have parental supervision, if not some kind of supervision there, so that that there's a protection or a level of protection thrown around these kids.
Yeah.
And that's the important part.
All right, thank you
I
for
think
your
time. I think just stopping children and saying, look, you can't have it, it's anti-parents. I mean, kids are going to find a way in which to celebrate, whether you want them to or not.
Absolutely. All right, I've got to thank you for your time. V. Gani is chairperson of the KZN Parents Association.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning. Let's start with live cricket action. Our Proteas back on the field. Second test against Pakistan in Rawalpindi. Pakistan won the toss, chose to bat, started steadily. They are on 19 for the loss of no wickets, and this is after 6 overs. Abdullah Shafiq, he is on 9, and Imamul Haq unbeaten on 10. And Kagiso Rabada, together with Marco Jansen, have opened the attack as the Proteas look to strike early and level the 2-match series after Pakistan took a 1-0 lead in Lahore. Meanwhile, England booked their place in the semi-finals of the Women's World Cup with a 4-run win over the co-host India in Indore. Set 289 to win, India finished on 284 for 6. Soccer action, Mamelodi Sundowns finally shattering their Nigerian curse. They clinched a vital 5-1 away win against Remo Stars, putting themselves firmly in contention for Champions League glory. Meanwhile, it was a heartbreak for Orlando Pirates, their 10-match winning streak coming to an end with a 3-0 defeat to St. Eloi Lupopo in the DRC. In Eswatini, Simba SC underlined their pedigree with a 3-0 away win over Nsingizini Hotspurs, and closer to home, Maruma Gallants, they had a 2-1 win over Chippa United at the Sisa Ramabudu Stadium. Elsewhere, Liverpool slumped to a 4th consecutive defeat for the first time in 11 years as Man United won 2-1 to end their near decade-long wait for victory at Anfield. Elsewhere, manager Thomas Frank admitted he had no instant solution for Tottenham's miserable home record. They crashed 2-1 against Aston Villa. Hockey, South Africa's women's hockey team reaffirming their continental dominance with a 4-0 victory over Ghana. In the meantime, the South African men's hockey team produced a performance for the ages, defeating Egypt 5-1 in the final of the 2025 African Hockey Cup of Nations. And finally, motorsport. Max Verstappen claimed a dominant United States Grand Prix victory ahead of Lando Norris as the pair made significant inroads into Oscar Piastri's Drivers' Championship lead. Here's Verstappen.
Yeah, it's been for us an incredible weekend. We really maximized all the results, and I think today in the race what was key was just that first stint. Charles was of course battling with Lando, and that's where I could pull the gap, because I think as soon as Lando was in clean air, it was very evenly matched, or he was slightly faster, and we basically managed the gap till the end, but it was not super easy. I mean, maybe it looked easy on the TV, but time management was tough today.
We'll be back in the fast lane. More sport, top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headline, civil society organisation Green Connection has raised concerns over government's recently announced electricity plan, citing potential high costs for consumers. 3 witnesses are expected to testify before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this week. Proceedings will partially be heard in camera from today to Wednesday. And Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's allegations will resume its work tomorrow. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu will continue to give his evidence in chief. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
This traffic report is brought to you by Auto & General Business Insurance. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
At Auto & General, we understand your business is built on more than just vehicles. It's your stock, tools and equipment, and the premises where you work. Auto & General Business Insurance is designed for businesses like yours, protecting your assets against fire, theft, storms, and other unexpected events. To protect your livelihood, visit autogen.co.za and get an obligation-free business insurance quote. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Let's start with Joburg through Midrand. There's some very heavy traffic this morning. Crash on the Mike 1 North near Caller Drive. That's slow. There's not many gaps in the traffic as you come up from the Boyson side this morning. You've got the usual queues, Boyson's Parkdown, and then Parkdown through to Melrose. Very heavy. And then if you're driving up through Midrand, a crash before New Road. N1 going north to Pretoria. That's heavy. Queues almost back as far as Buccleuch. It changed. And of course, everyone going south having a look at that. So the big volume southbound side is heavy from Brockfontein all the way down towards that Allendale Road exit into that scene. Plenty of traffic on the N3 from Germiston to Elands interchange effectively right the way through to Buccleuch. You pick up some heavy traffic to Modderfontein Road, and then you're in the roadwork delays between Alex and Buccleuch. And the southbound side is equally as heavy this morning as it is running north from Buccleuch down to London Road. Absolute solid through the roadworks. The earlier rain condition not helping either. Durban pretty light. It's Diwali today, so happy Diwali. Love and light to you if you are celebrating. It is keeping a lot of traffic volume off the roads, but there are some incidents. A crash on the M4 Southern Freeway inbound at the M7 off-ramp. That's really heavy from Jacobs up through Clarewood this morning. And a crash now on the N2 North at Gena Road. So that's the reason that the traffic's all the way back almost to the M7. That route was moving beautifully this morning until that particular crash scene. Also M7 going into Pinetown quite heavy as well. Cape Town crash, N1 Intertown Brackenfell Boulevard. That's a queue right back to Kryfontein, almost into the sort of farmland areas this morning. And 2 big lights out, M7, R300, Mitchell's Plain, that's very slow. And the N7, Yuckelsley in front of Lunga, lights out there, queues from Vangate Mall. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The traffic report was brought to you by Auto & General Business Insurance. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, let's talk the prospects for the South African economy. The IMF is concerned about the country's debt picture. What's that about?
So the IMF expects South Africa's public debt to rise to 87% of GDP by 2030, a slight improvement from its earlier 88% forecast. Yet the outlook remains challenging as weak growth and tight spending continue to strain public finances. Now, in its October fiscal monitor, the IMF warns that global debt will exceed 100% of GDP by the end of the decade, with emerging markets like SA facing the toughest trade-offs between stabilizing debt and sustaining growth. Now, South Africa's debt has almost doubled over the past decade, climbing from 47% of GDP in 2016 to about 77% this fiscal year. And despite fiscal tightening, debt is projected to keep rising. The IMF is urging government to build buffers and align spending with revenue. Now, when it comes to the growth picture, the country's growth outlook remains subdued, with forecasts of 1.1% this year and 1.2% next year, which is well below the 3 to 4% average for other emerging markets.
As far as the financial markets go, Ndauling, we remain at the top of it on the African continent. South Africa has kept its position as the top financial market.
That's right, Thulasizwe. While we might be struggling when it comes to actual economic growth, it still seems like our financial markets lead when it comes to the African continent, with South Africa tightening its grip as the continent's financial leader, topping the ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index for the 9th year in a row, despite a tougher global environment. Now, the survey found that most African economies are battling weaker liquidity and lower market activity, but South Africa continues to stand apart, scoring 98 out of 100 for market depth. Now, the recognition comes as the JSE oil share continues to break through records. Just last week, it broke through another record, closing at 113,000 points, its highest level ever, driven by gains in industrials and resource shares. Now, SA aside, markets such as Mauritius and Malawi also posted some of the biggest gains. Mauritius climbed into the top 3 following new financial reforms, and Malawi rose 7 places thanks to a larger capital market and more diverse investment options. The findings, of course, come amid a tougher global environment marked by liquidity constraints and geopolitical uncertainty, which have slowed market activity in most African financial markets.
Malawi, you said, yeah?
Malawi, right?
Who would have thought, yeah? I love it. Great news. Lastly, Ndauling, how are we looking on the markets at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets on a high, shrugging off slowing growth concerns in China. The Japanese Nikkei leading the gains there, up close to 3%. Stateside, futures in positive territory. Traders eyeing earnings with Netflix and Tesla out with numbers this week. And then coming back home, the JSE closed in the red on Friday as the metals price rally cooled. The oil share shed 2% in trade on Friday. Then over in currency markets, the rand remains steady. It's at 17.34 to the greenback, while oil prices extended losses from last week, that is, amid persistent concerns over sluggish demand and a looming supply glut in the coming months. Brent is trading just above $61 per barrel.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with you just after 8:30 for the final update of the morning.
Streaming Scheme Sum on the way to class.
Catching the Premier League while waiting for your order.
Jamming to Metro FM before you even get out of bed.
On SABC Plus, sinayo yonke into ifunayo. Your shows, your music, your way, anytime, anywhere. 0 subscription fees.
On your phone, tablet, or smart TV.
Download SABC Plus on iOS or Google Play Store.
You could spend 10 minutes waiting for the microwave to beep or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 55-year-old Stefan, who now only pays an unbelievably low 611 Rand a month for his 2024 Suzuki Jimny. With Outsurance, you can drive with confidence. With up to a whopping 5 million Rand third-party liability cover that covers damage to the other person's vehicle in an accident, you can rest assured. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 55-year-old Andre now pays only 776 Rand a month for his 2024 Toyota Urban Cruiser. Get a quote. If Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Fellow taxpayers, make tax matters a #1 priority by submitting your personal income tax return by the 20th of October 2025 deadline. Once your tax return is submitted, you'll receive a notice of assessment stipulating if there's any tax-assessed debt due to SARS or not. Should you owe, it's crucial to settle tax obligations on time to avoid any penalties or interest charges. SARS, at your service.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, the conversational buffet is laid out for you nicely this morning. What don't we have? That is the question. What don't we have on the table? Electricity and the plans around the IRP, Integrated Resource Plan for South Africa for the next few years. We have issues to do with the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon and its cancellation. We've talked gambling. So all of those, it would seem a lot of people wanting to engage on that. So let's get straight to it. Starting with these messages about the IRP, the Integrated Resource Plan.
Hey, Thulas, say what? More electricity than I can know what to do with. Hey, I hope I'll be alive to see that. So I was born in 1994, so in 2039, I'll do the math later. Anyway, this is very likely not to materialize, Thulas. Not because there's something inherently wrong with it. Mainly because we all know what's going to happen with the procurement and the money.
Yeah. In fairness, I must point out that those are not Minister Ramokgopa's words. It's me summing up what I heard him to be saying, that actually we want to get to a point where at no point will you have demand surpassing supply. We must always have supply surpassing demand. And also I was summing up that whole concept of what you have as capacity of Eskom now, multiply that by 2.5. That's what you will have by 2039. I love that you are already calculating how old you'll be in 2039 and whether you will live to see it. Let's hope we all live to see it and see how it all unfolds. Will it materialize? That is the question.
Good morning, Thulas and the listeners of SAFM. This whole thing of the IRP from the minister is just a pep talk. I can tell you that yesterday in the township called Botshabelo in Mangaung Metro, we didn't have the electricity for almost the whole day, almost the whole day. And this thing has been happening constantly. So we have now normalized abnormal things. Johnny Mokhatla from Botshabelo in Mangaung Metro.
Johnny, thank you for that. Yeah, and that's the point, really, is it not? The whole concept of energy poverty, where sometimes the energy is available, but people can't afford it. Sometimes it's not available, and it's being produced in ways and methods that are not sustainable. A lot of people still being left out of that equation. Even when they are connected to the grid, the amount of time they spend without electricity in their houses still presents manifestations of what we call energy poverty. I want to play this voice note before I go to Sive in Gqeberha. It has to do with the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon. I've got lots of questions, and I'm sure a lot of people still have a lot of questions about just the whole idea, the cancellation of the marathon with an hour to go or thereabouts.
Hi, Thulas. Hope you're well. This is Daniel. Thulas,
this annual sporting events which is taking place in Cape Town. What was called Cape Town Marathon. It was cancelled. I think it was cancelled too late. Too. I think the organizers left it too late. It was actually cancelled at the time when the runners were actually standing, just around about 5 o'clock yesterday morning, when the runners were actually standing at the starting point. It was so unfortunate. We feel that this is something that should have not happened. Thanks, Thulas.
All right, thank you for that. Of course, the marathon organizers talk about prioritizing the safety of runners over everything else, every other consideration. I imagine that it can't have been an easy decision for them to make, given that over the last few years, they've been campaigning, they've been trying to work at finessing the Cape Town Marathon such that it becomes an Abbott's world major marathon, so it enjoys that prestige that is shared by other major city marathons. So you have international runners that come to South Africa to run the Cape Town Marathon, and then at the point at which you have to make the call that says, actually, we're not going to give it a late start, we are going to call it off altogether. It can't have been an easy decision. But I wonder, though, have they said enough about the conditions objectively? Whether or not a later start was not possible, was everything tried and only at the point where it became clear that you simply cannot have a race under these conditions was the call made. So we have been trying to reach out to them because I really think they do need to say a bit more than what we've seen in the last day or so. So let's hope maybe we can have that conversation in the coming days, hopefully tomorrow at the latest. Sive in Gqeberha, good morning to you. Ndiphilile kunjani mhlekazi?
Yaphila. Thulasizwe, this crisis of gambling, it's not only on people with social grants. This crisis is also big amongst students. So where I work, we hosted the Eastern Cape and the National Gambling Board last week for 2 workshops. They were workshopping students on the risks and responsible gambling, and we've also now learned that students, they actually finish even their NSFAS money on this gambling crisis.
Sure.
And then you would find students quietly sitting in a classroom on their phones, and you think maybe they're Googling or something, they're busy. You only hear when maybe he has lost money screaming that I can't So I think it's something that also needs to be highly looked into, particularly in that space of students gambling their money into Betway.
What's your thinking? What's driving it, Sive, from your observation?
Firstly, I outside the issue of poverty, I think also the access to smartphones and the general gaming on the phones. I think it's one of the major crises.
Yeah.
But also the second one, which is linked to poverty, is desire to have more money than you have. I think that's the issue around gambling. It's general greed.
Yeah.
Maybe when NSFAS money was not yet paid and you want to have more, but it's wanting more than you have.
All right.
I mean, it's
All right, Sive, thank you for that. That's Sive out in Gqeberha. That's really our Achilles heel for many of us, isn't it? The allure of quick money. You've really got to exercise all of your senses to think about, quick money. Is that really, is it possible to start off with? And is it possible in ways that don't put you in peril? That always is the conversation, isn't it? Let me take this voice note on that. I do see one or two that have to do with the Minister of Electricity, Thulasizwe Simelane. So let me see if I can squeeze them in very quickly.
Hi, Thulas. This is Sihle from La Ezola. You see, this thing of gambling, it's not right. I'm one person who used to gamble a lot, but after I've listened to that clip from the lady, I think it's one thing I need to avoid. Gambling is not good, really not good. But as people we've got different views, but I just don't think gambling is the way to go, especially for young kids, even for adults too. Thanks.
Good morning to us and to the SAFM listeners. To us, Mina, I believe the minister. Look at where we are, look at where we're coming from within a few years. I think let's have trust in him. He's an engineer, he's a problem solver, and I believe in him so much. And I know it's a little bit dodgy because we've gone through a lot, but hey, he's done it, he's proved it. Let's have faith in him. Thank you. Takarani here.
Hi, good morning, Tulas and the listeners. Rudolph here with Bank Mpumalanga. But Tulas, man, let's be honest with, let's just be fair to the minister. Uramakhopa, really, I mean, since his appointment, there has been tangible changes at ESCOM. And it is true. I mean, when was the last time we had load shedding? I mean, I hear some of the listeners would complain about not having electricity. Remember, sometimes Tulas, not having electricity is not always an ESCOM problem. It could be a municipality problem as well. Thank you.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Let's work you through the country nation's hotspots. The N1 going north through Midrand on your way to Pretoria. Crash near New Road this morning, so quite slow getting up into that. And of course, the high volume southbound side having a look. So just some extra pressure coming through Brockfontein interchange all the way down to Allendale on the Joburg bound carriageway. There was some early morning rain, so conditions a bit wet and slippery as well. Always just keeping speeds down. The crash going northbound also just starting to back up traffic coming up from Rivonia. So you got a problem N1 into Buccleuch for a turn into that crash delay towards New Road, or to go straight through Buccleuch onto the N3 and you sit all the way down to London Road due to the roadworks. Northbound into the works of Buccleuch, while that traffic starting back around Modderfontein Road. Crash on the Mike 1 north at Melrose. You've got two queues to work through this morning. Boyson's up to Smith Street, and then from Parktown through to Melrose into that crash. It's all pretty heavy. Pretoria side, the N14 on your way to Pretoria, the Krugersdorp Highway to Brockfontein slow. N1 south down to Botha Avenue looking a bit sluggish as well. Durban region celebrating Diwali. Well, the Indian community celebrating Diwali this morning, but you can see that taking a lot of traffic volume off the roads around Durban, although there are a couple of incidents that are catching out the lighter volumes. One is a crash before Umgene Road going north on the N2, and the other is a big backlog from Jacobs Clarewood on the M4 inbound. There's problems as you come off at the M7 there, so Durban bound Southern Freeway very slow. Cape Town crash N1 into town at Brackenfell Boulevard. That traffic solid from the Kraaifontein, the farmlands areas this morning. You're queuing through that rural area into the city, and a collision on the N2 inbound from Khayelitsha by Borchard's Quarry. That is slowing traffic coming through from Khayelitsha. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Every big business starts small, but it's the bold ones that keep on growing. Are you bold enough to take the next step? Sanlam Corporate and Santam are calling South Africa's small business champions to the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective, happening on the 21st of October at the Sandton Convention Centre from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's your chance to grow, connect with experts, explore funding and access to markets, and discover how AI and sustainability can help your business to thrive. And remember, growing your business isn't just about profit. It's about the people who move your business forward. Explore Sanlam's easy retirement plan to protect what matters most, your people. SMME Collective seats are limited, so request your invite today at sanlamonline.co.za/campaigns/SMME Collective.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
A fascinating opinion piece appearing in the Sowetan a few days ago under the hand of Silo Hatang, Executive Director of Rihata Moho, reflecting on the recent torching of buildings during student protests at the historic Fort Hare University in the Eastern Cape. Let me not try to summarize it. Let me read you an excerpt. And I quote here, South Africa has a long and complicated relationship with fire. During the struggle, fire became both a symbol and a weapon. Petrol bombs were hurled at state vehicles and municipal offices by a generation that felt unseen and unheard. Fire was the cry of the oppressed, a way to declare, if you do not hear us, you will see us. It was a weapon of the powerless, an emotional vocabulary used against a system that spoke the language of force. Though today's fires at Fort Hare were not acts of armed resistance, they echo that history. Fire still speaks when people feel they are not being listened to. Let's bring in the author, Silo Hatang, Executive Director at Rihata Moho. Good morning to you, Silo. That's just an excerpt. That's where you were really hitting your stride in terms of that prose and delivery of your argument. But what in essence was the message you were seeking to bring across in that opinion piece?
Thank you very much. Good morning. I think the big thing about the article was to ensure that we begin to ask ourselves difficult questions about whether we need to unlearn old ways of protest and try find new ways of protest. There's lots of healing that we still have to do as a nation, and that healing shows itself, or the need for that healing shows itself in the form of Fort Hare, in the form of what happened now at the University of Free State. So I'm asking, the article was trying to do was to ensure that we understand that there's a deeper history to fire and that sort of protest, that you can even burn what would be your history. And in the process, we're beginning to burn dreams of generations. And I think that's what we need to be asking ourselves, Thulasizwe. Can we afford as a nation to always be here, year after year after year? Last year, I tried to raise some funds for a young woman who's studying medicine, Lorato, from Mamelodi. And at least for that one, we managed to raise some money using people contributing towards her fees. But it can be a continuous struggle that every year we then have this kind of thing, and then we resort to the old forms of struggle or of expressing struggle. And I think if the national dialogue is to do anything, is to begin to bring the nation together to say, are we asking the right questions? Are we trying to solve for the right things? And once we do that, it means that we'll begin to then say, maybe there's new ways that we need to be protesting, and also we need to be unlearning what we learned previously. I mean, the first victim of a necklacing, for example, was Memagis Kosana in 1985. And I think if we are, there's a contest there with Ntate, and if we are to begin to then think to ourselves, did we deal with that history? And I'm arguing in that article that we didn't.
How important is leadership and responsiveness in this conversation, Silo? Because there's that argument that says until something is burning, you are unlikely to see a response. And also that whole desperation that says, you are talking here about people being students at a university. You imagine they have an appreciation of the institution at which they are and how it forms part of the heritage crown jewels. The fact that there would be, let me not attribute to them because there's debate now as to who's responsible. The fact that those would burn in the cause of a protest, what does that say about the levels of desperation to be heard and seen vis-a-vis the responsiveness and leadership that is required at various institutions?
I think that's the key. You've just nailed it, because I think this struggle of not being heard or seen is what leads to extreme measures that says you will hear us. I remember as a 10-year-old in Kuma township, that when I 10, 11-year-old, I remember witnessing one of those first instances where people would go to the extreme of burning someone's house to say, if you work with the police, we will deal with you this way. And desperation is what leads to those kind of acts, but we need not lead there. That's why I go back to the national dialogue. It should be asking ourselves, are we investing enough in areas that we should be investing in generational building of a nation, reimagining who we are as a people. But also it also means that we haven't found new ways of expression, of expressing how we need to be heard. It's easy to also blame leaders, to say leaders are not listening. But are we also waiting until it's too late for us to express what we need as students? Sometimes I remember as a student at Vista, some of those protests, you'd be wondering, did we have to wait until now? And then we question the calendar that was published at the beginning of the year. It means that we haven't found new ways of saying maybe there's another way of doing these things. And I think until such time we do what Dr. Mampela Rampele said we should do, doing the difficult work of reimagining South Africa that we dream of, hopes will continue to burn and dreams will be broken. Every year it will be a generational struggle of burning of dreams and aspirations. Fire is a cry of a nation of those who are not seen. Let's see them, because until such time that they are seen. But I'm not again justifying this. Those who are culprits of this thing must still be arrested. I'm not saying it's justifiable to do it. I'm saying do it right.
Gotcha. Sello Hatang, powerful words. Executive Director at Rihata Moho. Let's go straight to N. Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, concerns over government's electricity plan and Madlanga Commission of Inquiry witnesses to testify remotely. Good morning. Civil society organisation The Green Connection has raised concerns over government's recently announced electricity plan, citing potential high costs for consumers. Electricity and Energy Minister Hossein Ramakgopa yesterday announced an ambitious plan to build 105,000 megawatts of new generation capacity by 2039 to the value of 2.2 trillion rand. The aim of the Integrated Resource Plan, IRP, is to stabilize the country's energy supply, attract investment and promote economic growth. As part of the IRP, the country will see a shift in its energy mix with cleaner sources like hydro, nuclear, wind and solar, reducing the country's reliance on coal. Community Outreach Coordinator at the Green Connection, Neville van Rooy.
The plan itself is a little bit confusing, claiming emissions reduction and affordability, which we both question in terms of the gas-to-power plan as well as nuclear that is presented, both of being, which is expensive gas, being expensive on the climate and on people's pockets. We do welcome the renewable energy and the storage capacity with that will be growing, but there is construction of energy infrastructure which we do not know who will bear the cost.
3 witnesses are expected to testify before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria this week. Proceedings will partially be heard in camera from today to tomorrow. The witnesses' testimonies are expected to be in relation to their experiences as detectives investigating criminal cartels. Sibahle Mota reports.
Proceedings are expected to continue this week in line with the ruling handed down by Chairperson Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga last week. Justice Madlanga ruled that witnesses this week will testify via audio in a remote location. This is also in line with an agreement reached between media houses Daily Maverick and Media 24 and the Commission's evidence leaders. Last week, witness X, who was testifying remotely through an intermediary, encountered technical challenges which are believed to have threatened their life.
Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkwanazi's allegations will resume its work tomorrow. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu will continue to give his evidence in chief. Mchunu has been on special leave since July, has so far defended his decision to issue a directive to disband the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team in December last year. He says he briefed President Cyril Ramaphosa on the decision and he backed it. Mkhwanazi has accused senior police officials, including Mchunu, of corruption, interfering in police operations and having ties to criminal syndicates. The trial of the man charged with the murder of Hilary Gadi is today expected to resume in the Mpumalanga division of the High Court sitting in Mbombela. Racing Kuna is accused of killing EFF Deputy President Godrich Gadi's daughter in 2022. He's also serving a life sentence for the murder of his girlfriend and his sister. Mutsibiwa Munareng reports.
The 36-year murder accused, Hlabiroa Racing Kuna, allegedly confessed to the murder of Hilary Gadi, who was kidnapped in Mbombela in 2022. Nkuna reportedly used his Facebook account to lure unsuspecting women to their deaths, leading authorities to suspect he might be a serial killer. Nkuna allegedly committed this murder while on parole. He absconded for 2 years. The case sparked controversy, with Hilary Gadi's father, Godrich Gadi, accusing the state of negligence. Gadi claimed that if Nkuna had been kept in custody, his daughter would still be alive. The trial proceedings are expected to last the next 2 weeks.
Further afield, and finally, the Metropolitan Police in London say they are looking into reports that Prince Andrew tried to obtain personal information about his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, through his police protection. In a posthumous memoir, Giuffre says she feared for her life at the hands of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and his circle of wealthy associates. The book, Nobody's Goal, will be published tomorrow. The BBC's Noor Nanji has this report.
Much of the book makes for extremely harrowing reading, as Ms. Giuffre details some of the sadistic abuse that Epstein put her through. There are also more claims about Prince Andrew. She says she was forced to have sex with him on 3 occasions, including when she was 17 years old. In his statement on Friday, Prince Andrew said he vigorously denied the accusations against him. In 2019, the prince told BBC Newsnight repeatedly that he did not remember meeting her at all and that they never had any sort of sexual contact.
Recapping the top stories, civil society organisation The Green Connection has raised concerns over government's recently announced electricity plan, citing potential high costs for consumers. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
29-year-old Tsana saw the premium, did the maths and jumped on the Outsurance deal. She now pays only 796 Rand a month for her 2025 Jetor Dashing. And after one quick call, 55-year-old Andre got an amazing premium of only 776 Rand a month for his 2024 Toyota Urban Cruiser. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754 today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. Live cricket action underway. Pakistan 41-1 against the Proteas in Rawalpindi. The Proteas hunting early wickets in the second test. And in athletics, the Cape Town Marathon left thousands disappointed as severe winds forced cancellation, with some runners still pounding the streets unofficially. We'll have the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Pretty heavy on Route 13 Midrand today, Pretoria bound or Joburg bound. There is a crash up by the new road exit from earlier this morning. So N1 North into that is slow. Southbound having a look pretty heavy from Brockfontein interchange all the way down to Allendale Road. Buccleuch interchange itself is heavy. Problems getting off that N1 Midrand or the N1 Rivonia through Buccleuch onto the N3 because of the roadworks all the way down to London Road. And then northbound on the N3, Germiston's Elands interchange to Galuli's, and then from London Road up into the roadworks at Buccleuch jam-packed. Crash on the mic on a Call It Drive. That's heavy this morning, effectively from Boysons all the way through to Melrose, and a crash at Willowbrook on Hendrik Portgieter causing delays as well. Durban, lighter volumes this morning, but there are some delays. The M13 through Kloof onto Fields Hills busy. The N2 north through Spaghetti Junction on your way to Umgeni Road is slow. And the M4 Southern Freeway, that has eased after big delays coming through from Jacobs and Clarewood earlier today. Cape Town crash N2 into town at Borchards Quarry. That's heavy from the Khayelitsha side. And a crash on the M1 at Brackenfell Boulevard, pushing traffic back towards that engine services out by Eustenberg. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 8. Let me quickly run through some of the messages that you've been sending that have been coming through on the WhatsApp line before we go to our next interviews. Someone here says, since the advent of democracy, we've watched and endured our society fall into moral decay, escalating corruption and leadership impotence. But now it's a time we say enough is enough, Mzansi. We call upon young intellectuals, academics, professionals and social activists, entrepreneurs, traditional authorities, as well as the army. Well, I don't know about that part. In fact, yeah, we haven't read that part. That might become problematic. But basically, this person is saying that South Africans should rise up and say enough is enough and basically take to the streets. There are elements that this person is calling for that I'm not comfortable broadcasting because they do border on the unlawful. But the point they are making is that the state of things cannot continue as it is from that reading that they make of the situation. Then someone wants to comment about the royal family, Amazulu royal family, Melissa Buta touching on it, that the king was trying to call for a reconciliatory meeting, but that was rebuffed by one of the part of the royal family aligned to Prince Smagate. And this person says, these tribal institutions are money and power making schemes. Smagate approached Dutch Roman courts, and now they are blaming it and saying that the traditional laws are superior, says Sipode in that message that he sent to me a bit earlier on. Vugani in eThekwini says, I look forward to the Q&A of MPs. With Minister Senzo Mchunu. At the top of my head is why Phala report was classified as a secret when it's of public interest, asks Vugani in eThekwini. And then I want to read this one now. Someone says cigarettes, vaping, alcohol and gambling are all addictive and therefore should all have the same no advertising rule at all in capital letters, says that person. So let me just read one last one before we get to the next interviews that we're going to have. This person says about the matric end of year celebration parties, our South African musicians, especially the Amapiano artists, together with SAB, they must do a campaign about such events because our children have been influenced by music and alcohol. It's not the Department of Education issue. It's a society problem, and how we raise our children is an important part. If we send our children to taverns and shebeens, then we must question ourselves as parents, says Brian Mabaye in Protea Clan. Keep it going. Let's keep the conversation healthy and lively. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief on this Monday.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and will go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, this next conversation is brought to you and sponsored by Vodacom Business. The objective, of course, the conversation we are having this morning, October is Cybersecurity Month, and therefore under the spotlight, the role of cybersecurity in business, especially small and medium enterprises. We are speaking to Lukhanyo Zahela, who is the acting executive head of security at Vodacom Business, and basically we are talking about the evolving role of cybersecurity in enterprises in this country. Good morning to you, Lukhanyo, and thank you for your time. So as I say, October is Cybersecurity Month. Why is cybersecurity a matter that should matter beyond the IT department of those enterprises that have such a department?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners, and thank you again for having me today. I think, just to start, cybersecurity today, right, is more than just a technical safeguard. It's the foundation of trust and innovation. So at Vodacom, we see security as a strategic enabler that accelerates digital transformation. So by leveraging connectivity and security, we help South African enterprises adapt to cloud, AI, and IT confidentially. So when you talk about IT not just being, security not just being an IT problem, right? I think cybersecurity has moved out of the IT backroom and it's now into the boardroom. It's about protecting the trust businesses rely on to operate. If a customer doesn't feel safe with their data, they won't engage. So when companies feel secure, they can confidentially adapt to new technologies like AI without fear or disruption.
Before we talk the integrated approach, I do want to diagnose what the issue is. So talk to me about the threats that local businesses face today in the cybersecurity arena.
I think ransomware is still a big one. It can cripple a business overnight. And we're also seeing more supply chain attacks where criminals target your vendors to get to you. And with the hybrid work, this has created new risks because people are now connecting from everywhere, often using unsecured networks. And with the rise of AI, people need to be more vigilant because this is increasing the attack surface.
And tell me then about the integrated approach that you champion at Vodacom. How does it fit in with the services you provide, but also the profile of the business customer that you serve?
I think as Vodacom, we are in a unique position because we provide both connectivity and security. So this means that we see the full picture from network to the cloud to the endpoint. And our threat intelligence is built into the network, so we can spot and respond to issues faster. And our solutions adapt. So as the business grows, we easily adapt to those, which is critical in today's fast-changing environment.
And then talk to me about the value, the measurable business value of strong security. And I suppose you can always juxtapose that with the losses where security is not strong and an incident, a cybersecurity breach occurs. What's the business value of having strong security versus the losses that potentially lay in cybersecurity risks?
Thanks for that question again, Thulasizwe. I think it's easy to think of security as a cost or a grudge buy, right? But the reality is that it saves money and protects revenue. For example, one of our clients avoided millions in losses because we detected the ransomware early. So it means that their systems didn't go offline. And strong security also helps with compliance, which reduces legal risk. And this can also lower your insurance premiums when it comes to cybersecurity insurance.
I'm just wondering, SMMEs, Lucanio. It's one thing to talk about those departments that have reached a point where they can afford to have an ICT department and have champions of cybersecurity within the business. But those 1, 2, 3, 10 people operations, how accessible are these conversations that we are having around cybersecurity for those?
I think it's very accessible, especially with for example, I'll give you an example. So we have a department that purely focuses on SME within Vodacom Business. So we combine efforts. We provide solutions that are tailor-made for whether you're a SOHO, which means you're one man band or a 10-man band. So our solutions scale to suit the needs of that specific small business or small enterprise.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. That's Lucanio Zahela, Acting Executive Head of Security at Vodacom Business. And that conversation was brought to you and sponsored by Vodacom Business.
This October month, SFM joins the world in breast cancer awareness. We bring you conversations that highlight the importance of early detection, survivor stories that inspire hope, and expert advice that could save lives. Together, let's spread awareness and support the fight against breast cancer. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
All right, it's Diwali 2025 season, and adherents of the Hindu faith in this country are preparing to celebrate the symbolic triumph of light over darkness, good over evil, and hope over despair. But amid the spiritual and familial rituals of the Festival of Lights, the country as a whole continues to grapple with serious societal challenges, some of which we've been discussing this morning, from corruption and violent protests to judicial challenges and failures and a declining education system. Dr. Shital Bula, who reflects on how the deeper meaning of Diwali, truth, justice, and collective well-being resonates now more than ever as the nation longs for real transformation. Dr. Shital Bula joins me now, an education expert and a senior lecturer at the University of Zululand and director at Stella Maths. Good morning and thank you for your time. Let's just, before we get into why the values you reflect upon matter the most, just the deeper meaning of Diwali. We talk about the triumph of light over darkness, of good over evil, but explain it a bit more for us.
Well, definitely. Good morning, and thank you for having me. I think, firstly, Diwali is a festival of light. It symbolizes everything good, everything positive. And symbolically, traditionally, even in India and across the nations, it's always been about society, community building, the coming together of people, families, the strengthening of ties, and going back to the core essence of what it is to be a good human being. So, what does good human behavior entail?
Mm-hmm. Yes, please go ahead.
And we look to, of course, good practices, living righteously, and, of course, coming out of difficult situations as a collective, which we in our current South African circumstances don't see that. In fact, our country, post-democracy, has become far more divisive. In the democracy, for years, we advocated for accountability, transparency, and equality in all our spheres of life. But if you look at our mass media journalistic reports, what we've been informed of the ongoings on recent turbulent times, it is anything but, the collective motion as a democratic nation of what we should stand for.
So it's a fascinating point of reflection for you, Dr. Bula. Within the context of a festival that many of us associate with the festivities part of it, you wanted it to be deeper and to be reflective about the challenges that the country faces. You call for, and you say South Africa is desperately in need of a shift from despair to hope, division to unity, and darkness to light. How do you see that happening within the context of some of the challenges that you've identified?
Acknowledge that for the first link. Look, this is what we need, and it needs to be a collective acknowledgement, despite ethnicity, despite racial segregation, despite religious beliefs. There needs to be a collective mindset that, look, this is what is required. And accompanying that, there needs to be, of course, we need the relevant action. We need the relevancy of accountability. We need the relevancy of correction of what has gone wrong all those whiles. What are the accountable measures, transparency, and of course a stronger stance for corruption. Equality against corruption and everything else that we've experienced.
And you tap into contemporary issues that we face, reflecting on the killing of Babita Deokaran, talking about the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, as well as, the allegations of police, judiciary, and intelligence service infiltration by criminal syndicates. What's the point you are seeking to make by invoking these examples? What do they symbolize in terms of the values that are represented by Diwali?
Look, here we're supposed to be celebrating humanitarian behavior. We're supposed to be celebrating the spirit of Ubuntu. We've lost an individual that, for a course of corruption and embezzlement, has lost a life. And that family today is grieving the loss of a beautiful soul. But my point is that to what extent are we going to continually lose people like this, experience this as a society, to actually shed light as to where our future should be, void of corruption, embezzlement, greed, and all the lack of human life in our country. It is really shocking, it is sad, and it's, of course, we are at a time of despair now. We are really desperate for a change. Yes, we celebrate the fact that she had the strength to do what she did for us, but did it really have to cost her life?
Beyond the governance issues that you raise, you also talk about issues that are, I suppose, more spiritual and cultural, issues such as national pride and belonging, as well as the, a cultural and societal shift centering values such as Ubuntu, truth, and justice. How do we use Diwali to be, the launch pad from which we then start to take that conversation forward?
Firstly, I don't think it's any responsibility of any one individual stance. It needs to be a collective shift. And I say that all the departments, whether it's education, whether it's our mass media platforms like yourselves, SABC, everyone should have, be saying and moving towards this gesture and imbibing and adopting the philosophy that accompanies the celebration of Diwali. And this should have actually been done at least 3 weeks prior to the festival. Not only would it actually shed light on the festival that is about to take place, but more importantly, the essence and the symbolism of why we need to also collectively acknowledge these celebrations. And when you take values from these spiritual practices that is upheld by, of course, many religious organizations across and throughout the year, it also realigns us, our purpose, our being, our sense of enlightenment as human beings. So, and we also need to look in terms of what do we want for ourselves collectively? I think at the moment, a lot of South Africans, they just function individually in the individual capacity. We're not looking at the bigger future. The sense of patriotism has declined simply because there isn't a collective thought of where is our nation going to be years down the line.
All right, I've got to thank you for those reflections, powerful reflections on Diwali by Dr. Shital Bula, an education expert and a senior lecturer at the University of Zululand. On that note, blessed Diwali for all that are marking the Festival of Light.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Are you awake? Are you sure?
I'm looking at my scores for the Proteas at the moment.
So from
Live.
Lahore to Rawalpindi.
I know.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
cities. I love them.
Lahore. Well, we'd never great start in Lahore, but hopefully Rawalpindi can... rewind and get us back on track. Well, currently at the moment, we have Pakistan. They've won the toss, choosing to bat in the second test. At the latest update, they are on 71 for the loss of 1 wicket after 22 overs. Abdullah Shafiq steady, and he is on 31 not out, while Shan Masood has 20. Simon Harmer has been the Proteas' only breakthrough so far, but the Proteas They'll be hoping their spinners can make inroads on a pitch expected to take a turn. Let's go to more cricket. Proteas wicket-keeper batter Karabo Miso says she feels emotional about reaching her first ever 50-over ICC World Cup semi-final as a youngster. This achievement came after the Proteas secured their spot in the semi-finals when the game between New Zealand and Pakistan was abandoned because of rain in Colombo. As a result, with 8 points from 5 matches, the Proteas cannot be caught by the White Ferns, who would still trail them on the number of wins, even if they do win their final 2 group stage matches. Here's Proteas wicketkeeper batter Karabo Miso.
Like, I don't even have words. There's a lot of emotions for everyone. Let me just say that, first semis in the ODI World Cup, which is really amazing for us. Like as a youngsters, I've been in T20 semis under 19, but this one really means a lot to me and the team. Yeah, it's quite a long journey and a good journey for everyone in the team.
Let's go to soccer. Striker Yassir Zabrini scored twice as Morocco won its first Under-20 World Cup title with the 2-0 victory over Argentina. And we also bring you news from tennis. Felix Auger-Aliassime claimed a second career European Open title, beating the number 3 seed Jiří Lehečka in 3 sets in the final in Brussels, Belgium. And finally, athletics. The Sanlam Cape Town Marathon ending in disappointment after severe winds forced organisers to cancel the race. More than 24,000 runners, many of them international participants, left stranded. Some still took to the streets in unofficial runs, but safety concerns were put first. Sanlam has confirmed it will sponsor entries for affected runners at the 2026 and or 2027 events. That's your sport. I'll be jogging out of here. Look out for John Gericke. He'll bring you more around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, one of the accused in the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial is expected back on the stand this morning at the High Court in Pretoria. Muzi Sibiya took to the stand last week and is the first witness to testify for the defence. The second sitting of the third inquest into the deaths of the Cradock Four is expected to continue today in the Gqeberha Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape. And civil society organisation The Green Connection has raised concerns over government's recently announced electricity plan, citing potential costs for consumers. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, Pretoria. First up, a crash on the run through Dustport Tunnel, so Bremer onto Transvaal Run. You're very slow. If you're just about to turn into that from the Montpellier Highway, you might want to really and just avoid a crash on the M1 North at New Road from earlier this morning, still causing a backlog through Buccleuch up towards that scene. A motorist coming south, busy with having a look at that. So from sort of Old Joburg Road all the way down to Allendale, it's fairly heavy. And then some really big traffic through Buccleuch going south into the construction down by London Road and northbound from Edenvale up to Buccleuch into the roadworks on that side. The Mike 1 from Boyson through to Sandton stays heavy after an earlier crash this morning by the Corlett Drive exit. Durban easing off nicely. It's been a morning marked by much lighter traffic volumes around Durban. Diwali celebrations well underway across the region. You can see that having a major impact on just lightening the traffic flow. There were some incidents earlier which backed up a bit of traffic that was around, but they're largely cleared, and the sun has started to shine as well after a bit of a wet end to the weekend and earlier this morning. And Cape Town, 2 crash scenes on the busy highways. Inbound one at Brackenfell Boulevard, so slow coming through from Kraaifontein. Another at Borchard's Quarry on the N2 inbound. That's just before you get to the airport exit. The N2 into that scene's heavy coming through from Khayelitsha. And Marine Drive still busy this morning, queuing up Tableview through Milnerton, and then Milnerton another queue down to Pardon Island. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lichela once again. Ndauling, talk to me about the property market. Tell me what Attack is eyeing this global capital as Waterfall City gains investor traction.
So the property group says its flagship Waterfall City development is drawing growing attention from international investors, positioning it as a rising competitor among premium real estate destinations in the continent. Now, the shift marks a tax transition from a domestic property player to one aligned with global capital flows. The mixed-use precinct, strategically located between Johannesburg and Pretoria, remains central to that strategy. ATAC was also banking on continued demand for well-located, energy-efficient developments. Now, Waterfall City's tenant base continues to expand, underpinned by reliable infrastructure and modern urban design. Beyond returns, the company is leveraging its development platform to address some of the country's infrastructure gaps. Its partnership with the City of Johannesburg and Johannesburg Water, which produced a co-investment model for new reservoirs, is being hailed as a template for effective public-private collaboration in the sector. Now, while ATAC sees encouraging signs of renewed business confidence and stronger leasing activity, it has warned that persistent infrastructure shortfalls, uneven municipal services, and potential election-related instability remain risks to growth and may make it less attractive to international investors.
And Grindrod has a new CEO, do they?
Yes, they do. Grindrod appointing Kwazi Mabaso as CEO, betting on operational expertise as South Africa's rail reform opens new opportunities for private logistics players. Now, Mabaso, who takes over from Xolani Mbambo in December, heads Grindrod Terminals and previously spent a decade at Transnet, where he managed key freight corridors, including the Northeast Corridor, the same line Grindrod recently gained third-party access to. Now, the move comes as Grindrod strengthens its regional footprint, consolidating control of its Matola terminal in Mozambique and selling its stake in Cockett Marine to unlock nearly R1 billion in profit. The company's chair, Cheryl Corrales, said Mabaso's appointment positions Grindrod to capitalize on a new era of rail and port reform and drive its next phase of growth.
Lastly, Ntauling, with everything we've said this morning, lay out for us the kind of trading day we can expect.
So local markets are in for a recovery at the open, taking lead from international markets. In terms of local news, traders will be digesting property news, with Sirius charging ahead with its acquisition strategy and Western Cape Property Group Spear REIT out with results. Over in the currency scene, action muted this morning with the rand steady at 17.35 to the greenback. And then shifting focus to oil, oversupply worries continue to weigh on that market, with Brent extending last week's losses at $60 per barrel. And then back to equities, stateside futures are in positive territory, with traders eyeing earnings, shrugging off the fallout associated with the government shutdown. Can you believe we are entering the fourth week of that shutdown with no end in sight?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then lastly, over in Asia, stocks are in the green on the back of what seems to be easing tensions between China and the US after a flare-up last week.
All right, Ntauling, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela, having kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets for the last 2.5 hours.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuyCars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy brands that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuyCars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray. Long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Fellow taxpayers, make tax matters a #1 priority by submitting your personal income tax return by the 20th of October 2025 deadline. Once your tax return is submitted, you'll receive a notice of assessment stipulating if there's any tax-assessed debt due to SARS or not. Should you owe, it's crucial to settle tax obligations on time to avoid any penalties or interest charges. SARS, at your service.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, straight to the calls. And I'll start with Charlie this morning. Charlie, there's a reason I'm starting with you. Can you imagine? Can you guess what the reason is?
No, I cannot.
You are in Coffee Fontaine, my man. So you skip the queue. I mean, you absolutely skip the queue. Good morning. Charlie? Charlie? Oh, no, man. I do want to hear from you there out in Coffee Fontaine. Charlie? No, we're battling with Charlie's line. Let's see if we can get Charlie back on a better line. I'm just fascinated by Coffee Fontaine. It's one of those. There's another one in Mpumalanga, Eerstelings-Fontein. You know, if you have a name like that, I guarantee you'll immediately skip the queue. Let me go to Khotso in Pretoria. Good morning to you, Khotso.
Morning, Thulasizwe.
You don't skip the queue because we are in Pretoria. It's okay. It's the usual.
Yeah, Coffee Fontaine is a small town in the Free State, but it seems like Charlie did not have his coffee in the morning.
Yo, Khotso, I didn't expect that. Go ahead. What about the SANDF is on your mind this morning?
Well, Thulasizwe, I'm trying to just put it out there in the public that reservist force members in the SNDF, particularly in the army, have been subjected to what we can only describe as an unlawful action by unilaterally changing their day where they're supposed to get paid, initially changing a payday without proper consultation and agreement as it is required by law. And even the Basic Conditions of Employment Act are quite clear that 7 days is the maximum allowed of you to pay and your employees after work done and salaries remuneration is payable. So we find ourselves in a position where sometime late in August, WhatsApp messages, chain WhatsApp messages that were received through various individuals started trickling in. And initially, we thought that it was not to be, but the information was that we are no longer going to be paid at the end of the month, which has been something that has been happening for over 20, 30 years. That will be only getting paid at the 10th of every month.
Sure. Wow.
Now, it would mean that you would be working for a full month and wait for your salary for the next 2 weeks, which in of itself is unfair.
Any explanation why the change?
The only explanation is that there was something to do with CETA, because of CETA is the one that runs the administration of salaries with the Defence Force. But be that as it may, that should not affect the workers, because of permanent members who get paid on the 15th do not have that issue, and they are also administered through CETA. So why the different treatment with reservist forces members, which is really unfair.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Khotso. Let's see if we can take it forward. He frames it as a change in conditions of employment, that change of the pay date affecting SANDF reserve force members. So quite an interesting one there. Let's see if we can follow through on it. Let me go to Max in Pretoria. Good morning to you, Max.
To us and a happy Monday, but not a happy Monday because we have been humbled.
How so?
3-0.
Oh, yes.
Pirates lost. I don't think that will come back because this is the stage where you need a coach like Rulani as an example who managed to pass those few stages, but it will be very difficult.
Hey, you'd never know, hey?
3-0.
Hey, you'd never know.
Well,
there's no therefore in this thing.
In this thing. So hearing it from a Kosi fan gives me hope.
Please go ahead.
No, the reason for me to call Thulas is the PGC that happened in Bombela Stadium yesterday in Mpumalanga province. And when you look at the statement that we made there, Thulas, in connection of the branches to go and strengthen the organization in that rural part of Bushbuck region, everywhere in Mpumalanga, Thulas. They are representatives, those people who are leading the branches. They don't even communicate when at Thulas. They don't use even WhatsApp group. You know, there is this saying, Thulas, saying that DA is good in where it governs. Yes, because they communicate. I'm staying in a DA ward, Thulas. I know everything where I'm staying. There's no way that the community tomorrow they can block road and bend tires because there's not that anxiety. But when I look at my province, the same people that they are saying that they will unite the bunch, they are in touch with the people. They are self-saving. They don't give those people. The small thing to the community means a lot, but they're failing. So I wonder what meeting, if maybe the ruling party in the province, they relate those people. Their wards must have WhatsApp numbers. It's 2025 it's no more 1912.
All right. Max, thank you for that. That's Max in Pretoria. I was going to go to Max in Velcom, but because Max is talking issues of service delivery at a local level, I think it just makes sense for me to complete on that theme. And therefore, I'll go to Petros in Gertsebande, my home area. Talk to me. What's happening in Gert? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mr. How are you?
Very well. How are you? That's my district there. What's happening?
My brother, can you do us a favor? Can you call our provincial secretary, Mr. Chiro?
Of the ANC, yeah?
Yes, to come and account. Because we have a problem here in Hersiband, especially in Albert Luthuli. There's the companies that are working. He's the brother-in-law for him. So he must come and account for that.
Companies that are working at the Chief Albert Luthuli municipality, that whose brother-in-law?
The brother-in-law of Muzi.
Okay.
Yeah, so those companies, they work and they don't finish the job and they leave it.
What job are they supposed to be doing?
The roads.
Okay. And it's been left abandoned?
Left abandoned, yes.
For how long?
It's a long time, but
what do you believe is going on, Petros?
I can't say it on the air, but it's a lot of job, but these companies are getting the job yet for Subat.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can follow through on that. But thank you for flagging it. That's Petros out in Gertsebande, concerned about a project that is just not coming to completion and alleging that the company that is undertaking that work has links to the one of the leaders in Mpumalanga, one of the leaders of the ANC. Max in Velcom, good morning.
Good morning, Thulas. I know you're well. They've been asking you for all this morning.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thulas, one thing that I just want to just browse through, you know, the production team that you have there in the studio is one of the best.
The production team?
So, yes, I clap hands for them.
Absolutely, I'm with you. I join you there.
Yes, they are doing an excellent job. Thulas, I phoned actually during the time when we had Lucanyoza here there. Almost 2 years ago, Vodacom, through its own platforms of applying for a cell phone or whatever that they apply for the product, they allowed somebody to apply for a product, an iPhone 15, I believe, with unlimited calls on my credentials. They didn't verify anything in those credentials. They didn't verify employment, residence, or anything. They gave that person a phone, and then they charged me. And I went to them and I asked, Vodacom, this what you did was wrong. It was incorrect. This is me. I didn't apply for a cell phone from you. How do you give somebody a cell phone without verifying anything from that person? The employment, residence, anything. And then they just left it like that, and they have not repaid my money until today. And I've been fighting. I opened the case. I did everything else. I spoke to them. I sent emails. I sent affidavits. I sent them the bank statements. I sent them everything that they wanted, but they didn't repay my money until today.
So you were reminded of that conversation when we were having that conversation about cybersecurity.
Obviously, when they talk about cybersecurity, apparently those people were applying online. The online that they are doing, they're supposed to at least make sure that there are checks and balances. They verify, they make sure that people are not unnecessarily inconvenienced or defrauded.
Yeah. All right.
But that's not what they are doing.
Yeah.
So their awareness must not be a lip service. It must be the actual thing that doesn't punish people that have got nothing to do with whatever that they're doing.
Valid point. Thank you for that, Max. It's one thing. It's one thing to raise awareness on an issue. Max is challenging Vodacom to actually walk the talk beyond just raising this as an issue of awareness around cybersecurity, but actually put in place measures that protect customers against identity theft. It sounded like a case of identity theft that was coming through there. Skara Emampondwin, good morning.
Thulas, how are you?
Very well. How are you, Skara?
Yes, I'm so excited because the first rains at Emampondwin has just fallen.
Yes.
But the problem is there is no clear program of farming. There is no minister. Where is this minister of agriculture and the MPC in the Eastern Cape? He's nothing, Baba. We need somebody who's just going to bring a clear program of farming here in an area where there are good rains and good soil, like this.
Yeah. Let me reveal my rural.
It's so shocking when you hear that there is poverty in the Eastern Cape, whereas we have so much good rains and good soil.
Let me reveal my rural upbringing, Skara, and say you are saying the call that says, I don't know if you have it in isiXhosa, the one that says Pezgom Kono has not gone out.
Yeah. But these MECs and unfortunately for us, the MECs here are not working in the Eastern Cape. So as the premier, no man, come on. You know what to say, Thulas? There was a project that was reported over the air. Yes, some years back, dairy farming in the Amatola area in Port St. John. What happened to that project?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
What happened?
All right, Skara, thank you for raising that call. Pezgom Kono, the rains are coming. It's time to now get started with the work of tilling the land, preparing the land for planting whatever portion of land, wherever you are, especially in rural South Africa. It really is the call that Skara is making out there.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Stays heavy getting up through Midrand. We've had delays this morning on the way through to Pretoria into this crash at New Road. Traffic from the Buccleuch interchange through Allendale and up towards the scene at New Road stays heavy. Southbound motorists getting caught having a look at it. So from Samran down towards sort of a point just before Allendale, it stays fairly heavy. N3 jam-packed this morning between Buccleuch and London Road into the roadworks. A little bit worse than normal. That's an all-day delay as well. It doesn't sort of go away when the volumes drop off at peak time. It just stays busy all day until about 6 p.m. going north and around about 7 p.m. Southbound until it eases. Crash on the ramp coming off the N3 south onto the N12 east at Galulis. A vehicle on its side there. Watch for some slowing traffic approaching that scene. Durban through to Pietermaritzburg looking good. This morning, no breakdowns around Cliffdale and Keeridge. You're going to get from Spaghetti Junction through to Market Road in pretty good time. In fact, wherever you're going across Durban, you'll get there in good time. A couple of blips earlier this morning with some crash scenes in the rain, but all of that is eased up. And, of course, Diwali celebrations well underway across Durban. So love and light to you if you are celebrating Diwali today. But it's keeping a lot of traffic off the roads, that's for sure, at this stage at least. Cape Town, the N2 inbound, a crash at Borchard's Quarry. That's just ahead of the airport exit. And traffic coming through from Kaya Leacher stays heavy. Also, the N2 going inbound from Langa through Hospital Bend down onto Nelson Mandela Boulevard. Looks like there might be an issue just before you get to just as you come through the bend onto Nelson Mandela Boulevard, because that's slow. Marine Drive still a bit busy as well, just coming through Table View towards the first lights at Sunset Beach. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Good morning, Thulas and the team. Good show as always. The biggest driver in the online gambling is the temptation to lies. The temptation to win fast cash under this poverty. So you'll find that people, they lose more than they win. That's my take to learn. BK, thank you.
BK, thank you for that. Let me take one or two voice notes that have to do with the conversation that Sello Hatang has steered us, in which direction Sello Hatang sought to steer us to reflect about the methods of protest that involve the burning of things, the burning of infrastructure and the likes, using and invoking imagery from our history, but also locating it and calling on all of us to reimagine the country, reimagine the society we want to be, and how we break free from those, legacies of our past struggles.
Hey, Thulas, while you are talking about arson, I want to add that to vandalism. We also have a serious issue of vandals, and I also think that needs some healing, some therapy. I once stopped looking at someone who was kicking a municipal bin, destroying it, and I asked him, why are you doing this? What's wrong? What did the bin do to you? And the person didn't have an answer. I just realized that we have a serious issue of vandals as well that needs healing. Thanks, it's Bongi here.
Good morning, Thulas and SAFM listeners. Thulas, the fire burning properties. During apartheid, fire was used to destroy things that we thought it was apartheid things. But little did we know, the very thing that we were destroying, they belong to us. Campuses, clinics are a community. Now we can't clean those mess in our generation. Lucy Gauteng.
Yeah, thank you for those reflections on the use of fire, one way or another, in the cause of protests in our country, and locating it nicely in the history of the struggle against apartheid in this country. Cassius in Bloemfontein, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Thulas and everyone in South
Short
Africa.
and sharp for me, please. I want to squeeze in two calls before I go.
I'll be quick. Bring in the ombudsman and a national financial ombudsman on the radio, represented by this Melissa van Zyl, and bring in mutual. For 2 years, for the pay premiums, I put in a claim. They have disputed it, and the ombudsman is letting them get away with it. I've been hammering on this. They run away every time. This Melissa will just keep quiet for 2 months, 3 months, and then come back and say she was never. She has been busy. It is just too much.
So this is
Really
the ombud for short-term insurance, is it?
Short-term insurance, yes. For short-term insurance. And then quickly on politics. ANC is breeding a nation that is going to fail us. They are allowing drugs, literally allowing our children to be killed by drugs. And this guy of electricity should not be congratulated for doing anything. They created this mess. They created a situation whereby we don't have electricity.
Yeah.
We didn't have electricity. Now, when they repair their own, We shouldn't clap hands. They should just get this thing done with. Let me tell you a simple thing. During apartheid, you wouldn't sell a piece of wire that belongs to railway or Eskom, because the person who buys it knows very well that you will also go to jail.
Gotcha.
But it is not happening today. A person grabs a stop sign, he goes and sells it. He grabs anything, he goes and sells it.
Let's leave it there,
and the ANC is allowing that unlawful deeds in our country.
Cassius, thank you for that. Let me end it off with Peter in Lephalale. Good morning to you, Peter. 1 minute.
Good morning, Thulas, and to the listeners.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. My problem is with Eskom. You see, there is a company called ERI, Eskom Rotec Industry. It was doing a project in Lephalale for a power line. But Thulas, things that were happening there are very questionable, because Eskom it pays out the money like bonuses, whether you are a contractor or a permanent worker of Eskom. But to date, we were released on our duty on August. But to date, they've never sent us the UIF forms, no bonuses, no nothing. So please, can you check with the Eskom big guys there to check if ever Eskom is doing what
you said? It's
contractors are doing.
Eskom Rotec Industries, is it?
Yes. Eskom Rotec Industries. They were doing power line in Lephalale, whereby the people of Lephalale, the children of Lephalale, were supposed to be trained, skilled, but it was in shambles. Training there was just like another type of training, where people were even issued with the certificate before they can even complete their training. I mean, something is not good. Power lines in Lephalale, as you know, Thulas, there are two power stations, big power stations in Lephalale, Medupi and Matimba. So the people of Lephalale, if they are not properly trained, those power lines, those projects will always be worked worked by the people from far, from out of Lephalale, because the people of Lephalale are not skilled. Can you please do check with us? We want our bonuses. We want everything to be done properly here. Thank
Peter,
you, Thulas.
Thank you for that. That's Peter out in Lephalale. Imagine a situation where we had the responsiveness, right? The kind of response. And I'm not saying we're not going to take responsibility as a show. We are absolutely going to reach out. But imagine a responsive society where people who've been mentioned in a number of these calls that have come through would reach out to us and say, hey, we heard what that person was saying. Here's the situation. Here's what we are doing about it. Now, wouldn't that be refreshing? Anyway, on that note, let's end it there. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your engagement. As always, The Talking Point with Kete Mutlatlana is up next after the news with Ann Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial continues and Trump insists Gaza's ceasefire still in place. Good morning. One of the accused in the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial is expected back on the stand this morning at the High Court in Pretoria. Muzi Sibiya took to the stand last week and is the first witness to testify for the defense. He has denied any involvement in the murder of the Orlando Pirates and Bafana Bafana goalkeeper. Mehiwa was shot and killed in Vosloorus in October 2014. Paul Magubane reports.
Advocate Zandile Mshololo is expected to cross-examine Sibiya, who has denied being in Gauteng in October 2014 when the soccer captain was murdered. According to key state witness Constable Sizwe Zungu, all 5 accused were at a hostel in Vosloorus on Gauteng's East Rand on the day of the murder. On Friday, the matter was adjourned to allow Advocate Mshololo, who had been absent from court for 2 days, to prepare for her cross-examination.
The second sitting of the third inquest into the deaths of the Cradock 4 is expected to continue today in the Gqeberha Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape. Anti-apartheid activists Fort Kalata, Matthew Goniwe, Sperum Konto and Sicelo Mhlauli were killed in June of 1985. The inquest is seeking to determine if anyone can be held liable for their deaths. Last week, witnesses, including the Deputy Defence Minister, Bantu Holomisa, testified about the apartheid government's alleged instruction to permanently remove Kalata and Goniwe from society. The former Education Deputy Minister, Sam de Beer, is expected to take the stand today. Gauteng police arrested 75 motorists for drunk driving at the start of the Safer Festive Season operation at the weekend. The crackdown includes roadblocks, a raid of liquor outlets and the patrol of major transport hubs across the province. More than 1,000 additional suspects were arrested for various offences. They include assault, dealing in drugs, possession of unlicensed firearms, and operating unlicensed liquor outlets. Provincial Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo says the suspects will appear in various courts today.
The raid by the detectives resulted in the arrest of suspects who have been on the run after committing offences that include rape, sexual assault, murder, attempted murder, robbery, car hijacking, and cases related to gender-based violence and femicide.
Civil society organisation The Green Connection has raised concerns over government's recently announced electricity plan, citing potential costs for consumers. Electricity and Energy Minister Jose Ntsura Makgopa yesterday announced